Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Pirates, I have unlimited skill points. Chapter 81. As Luo Shu's ship gradually moved closer and closer to Dressrosa, Monet's heart was sinking deeper and deeper. Although there was only a 2-day voyage, the new things Luo Shu redisplayed in these 2 days really made her have some accidents. If before that, she thinks that Doflamingo has a 20% chance of winning against Luo Shu, after all, Doflamingo is a family, not just one person. So now it seems to her that the probability of Doflamingo winning is infinitely close to zero. There is nothing to do. It is better than knowing that someone is going to deal with his kind, but she is bound by the other party and unable to move to tell her relatives. Things are even more cruel. In the past 2 days, Monet looked at Luo Shu's gaze, always full of hatred, but for Luo Shu, he didn't care, let alone after he opened the store. Even before he opened the store, Monet was not in his sight either. As Marine's ship gradually arrived at Dressrosa, the news naturally reached Doflamingo's ears. Marine is coming. When he heard the news, Doflamingo was very surprised, because it seemed to him that the world government hasn't moved yet. It should be to wipe his butt, after all, they don't want to cause the shaking of the sea. But now Marine is here, there are some things that I don't understand. Just as Doflamingo was puzzled, the second news came. The person who came was not someone else, it was Luo Shu. As soon as I heard the name, Doflamingo knew what Luo Shu meant by coming here. Get ready to fight. With his hands under his nose, Doflamingo sat on the second floor of the palace. He knew that this time it was estimated that this battle would be unavoidable. Yes, hearing Doflamingo's words, the 3 top cadres under him immediately responded and began to move. As for Luo Shu's ship, it also came to the open sea of Dressrosa at this time. I'm optimistic about Monet and Guy in the prison. I will go by myself, and you will stay on the boat. When he reached the bow, Luo Shu did not direct his boat to the port or anything. After preparations were made, Luo Shu faced the boat. Hina spoke to Ingrid. He felt that it was impossible for Doflamingo not to know that he was coming. Then if he knew he was coming, there were probably only 2 possibilities, one is to fight with himself, and the other is to run. If the hard shell is okay, Luo Shu is not afraid of head-to-head, but he is afraid. He runs on both sides, and it is easy to attack Luo Shu's boat when he runs. After all, Guy Sa and Monet are still in Luo Shu's hands. Nai is not an important person to him. But the most important piece of cooperation between him and 4 emperors Kaido a chess piece. So let Hina and Ingrid stay on the boat, even if there is any problem, you can hold it for a while and wait until you come back. Yes. Upon hearing Luo Shu's words, Hina and Ingrid also responded solemnly. Although they are also worried about Luo Shu, they also know the meaning of staying on the boat. After volleying a few moonwalks, Luo Shu stepped directly onto Dressrosa's territory, and then he walked directly towards the nearby town. Luo Shu has never read the original, so when he walked into these small towns, to be honest, his first impression of this place was very strange. The whole town is actually quite peaceful, and occasionally there are some screams and the like. It is also because the woman stabbed him with a knife after a man changed his mind. Humans and living toys live in harmony in this country. The living standards of the residents here are indeed in the New World, and can also be ranked in the upper and middle reaches. Except for the core cities ruled by the 4 emperors and Marine, this country can be regarded as a very good country. Luo Shu has walked all the way and his mind has been turning. He was looking for evidence of Doflamingo. According to Guy's words, Doflamingo is the Joker of the Dark World. He provoked the surrounding countries to fight, and then sold arms on both sides. He provided firearms to the pirates to rob major countries. And also doing business with Kaido, and built an underground factory here that uses SAD to produce artificial devil fruit, but Luo Shu didn't see it. He didn't even find a pirate in the town. Almost all the camps on their heads were civilians or guards. Fortunately, I am not here to find evidence, but I am going to kill him directly, otherwise it will be troublesome. At this time, Luo Shu couldn't help but feel a little grateful. He is not a lawful person. If the orthodox Marine comes, it's really not easy to find evidence. While Luo Shu is walking in this town, people in this town are also looking at Luo Shu, because this is the Shichibukai site and there is no Marine branch here, so people in Dressrosa, unless something happens, for example apart from the things that Marine wants Doflamingo to go to naval headquarters and so on, Marine is rarely seen. So when they look at Luo Shu, they will have some surprises. Ignoring these gazes, Luo Shu continued to walk in the direction of Wang Ting. Speaking of which, Wang Ting is still easy to find. It is called the King's Heights. It is the highest place in Dressrosa. It is easy to find. Luo Shu pressed there all the way. Just go. But at this moment, a sudden noise came from the other side of the street. Under Luo Shu's gaze, a one-legged toy soldier made of red iron was quickly passing through the crowd. Behind him, there are some people who are hunting it down. However, compared to the iron soldier who can easily get away from many people, the people who hunt it down are not so dexterous, and many people have been overthrown along the way. But these people are members of the Doflamingo family, and the citizens of Dressrosa dare not say anything, they can only swallow the fire. But at this moment, the iron soldier directly bypassed Luo Shu, and the two pursuers ran to Luo Shu's side, and rammed Luo Shu directly without saying a word. But who is Luo Shu? In this collision, not only was Luo Shu okay, but with the help of the shock force, Luo Shu smashed the two into a somersault. You, Marine, what are Marine doing here? After the two fell to the ground, they looked at Luo Shu angrily, but when they saw the cloak of justice behind him, the two couldn't help but hesitate. Oh, I'm here to kill Doflamingo, Luo Shu said flatly after chuckling at the two. Hearing what Luo Shu said, one of the two raised the gun directly, but the other one pressed his gun. After the two stood up, they ran towards the direction of King's Heights. In the past, Luo Shu didn't care, and continued to walk there. Hey, Marine over there, are you here to catch Doflamingo? At this moment, the toy soldier who had already escaped killed a carbine and shouted at Luo Shu. Catch it, it depends on your mood, but I'll cut him down until it's true. Luo Shu turned his head and looked at him when he heard the voice of the toy soldier. If this is the case, can you please come with me? Seeing Luo Shu say this, the toy soldier said sincerely. Luo Shu looked at the toy soldier, but he was hesitant to look at the justice value above him. Cyrus, King's Army, justice value, 53,372. Such a guy, he shouldn't cheat me. Hey, forget it, if there are any traps, just get rid of it. After thinking about it, Luo Shu laughed at himself and said flatly. Lead the way, yelled at the toy soldier, and the toy soldier saluted Luo Shu seriously, and then led the way in front. Following the toy soldiers, Luo Shu came to a chandri flower field not long afterwards. At a glance, there are sunflowers everywhere. If someone with some artistic level sees this scene, they will feel very beautiful, but it is a pity, Luo Shu has intensive phobia. If it's just a piece of flower, it's okay, but the problem is that the sunflowers are still full of melon seeds, and they seem to be densely packed, which makes him a little unbearable. Fortunately, they did not stay here more, but went directly to the underground from a hidden place. When they entered the underground, Luo Shu found that there was still a large space under construction. The people involved in the construction are all villains. The height of these villains is only about 5 centimeters, not much bigger than some insects, but their surprising power is not small, and they are quickly sorting out this space at this time. This is the little human race. Luo Shu has been in One Piece for more than 3 years, and he has naturally read many books. He is no stranger to the little human race, but this is the first time I have seen him. This is the little human race of the Dongtata Kingdom. Regardless of their short stature, they are very powerful, and they are a very strong combat power. And they are naturally good at cultivating plants. They claim that they don't have plants that they can't cultivate. Looking at Luo Shu, the toy soldier named Cyrus also said. Cultivating plants. Looking at the busy little human race in front of him, Luo Shu suddenly flashed an idea in his mind. He thought of something in the system mall. What did you call me over for? Temporarily suppressing his thoughts, Luo Shu squatted down, observing these busy little people, and said to Cyrus. That's it, I heard that you are going to deal with Doflamingo, so I want to come and talk to you about Doflamingo and this country. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Cyrus also sat down with a serious face. Said Luo Shu. According to Cyrus, he was originally the commander of the king's army in this country, but 8 years ago, Doflamingo invaded this country. In order to save the king, he was turned into a toy by Doflamingo's sugar. Although King Liku saved him and allowed him to survive in the end, this world became Doflamingo's world, and he turned all those who resisted him into toys. People who become toys will disappear in the memory of normal people, and they will sign a contract with sugar, and they will not be able to disclose information about them to people. And they need to work at the wharf at night in exchange for time to spend with their family during the day. In fact, according to Cyrus, what Doflamingo did is really excessive. But for Luo Shu, he doesn't care about these. Well, let me tell you about the Doflamingo family. It may be that Luo Shu is not very interested in their encounters. The toy soldier also talked about the Doflamingo family. Among the Doflamingo family, the most important is naturally Doflamingo. In addition, there are 3 highest cadres, Pika, Toripal and Diamante. The combat power of these people is naturally good, but the most important thing to pay attention to is a girl called Sugar. This girl is 20 years old this year, but she still looks like 7 or 8 years old. She is very cute. A little girl but it is the root cause of all these nightmares. As long as she is touched, anyone will become a toy. Hearing what Cyrus said, Luo Shu finally nodded. For him, this information is the most important, childlike fruit. It seems that there are some rules and meanings, and he really needs to pay attention. I touched the handcuffs of the sea stone behind me, and it seemed that the handcuffs I brought here just in case were very useful. Okay, thank you, but I'm in a hurry, I'm going to clean them up. Knowing more about Doflamingo and his men, Luo Shu also smiled, then stood up and prepared to leave. This Marine, haven't you figured it out yet? I told you so much to let you dispel this idea. We are not ready yet, and it is not the time to overthrow Doflamingo. Watching Luo Shu leave, Cyrus said immediately. Hey, in fact, when the power reaches an ultimate, it doesn't matter whether other people are ready, as long as I'm ready, that's okay. Luo Shu said softly with a smile and waved his hand. Sir, hearing Luo Shu's understatement, the toy soldier couldn't help panicking even more. Oh, by the way, if I help you solve Doflamingo, can you let me hire some villains, because I have some things and want them to help me plant them. At this moment, Luo, who was about to go straight out. Shu stopped suddenly, then said with a smile. If you can really solve Doflamingo, let alone kind of stuff, you can do anything. At this time, a small human with a beard almost the same height as the height came out and said with a serious face, this person is called Gon Chao. Just now Cyrus 5.0 also introduced that the patriarch of the villain, since he said yes, there is no problem with the integrity of the villain. That's fine. With a smile, Luo Shu walked out of this underground space, leaving only Cyrus with a surprised look behind him. But when he just walked out of the ground, his observation hockey suddenly discovered that there seemed to be a group of people walking towards his boat. According to his observation hockey's feedback, he was going to be one of the top cadres in the legend. Diamante. Although someone attacked his boat, Luo Shu did not turn back. He just took out the phone bug and pulled it back. A Diamante, Hina and Ingrid can solve it. Attention, the news from Luo Shu that Amante under Doflamingo came with some flower soldiers. Hanging up the phone, Na shouted to everyone on the boat. Hearing that an enemy was about to attack, everyone on Luo Shu's boat didn't look a little flustered. On the contrary, many people were very excited. Why do they practice hard for? Just to go to battle and kill the enemy. Originally they were still thinking that this time maybe Luo Shu would give Doflamingo's subordinates to Bao Yuan, but they didn't realize that they would split their forces. In fact, it is understandable that Doflamingo will never let Guy cause trouble. Hearing the outside sound, Monet's mouth grinned unconsciously. According to her thoughts, maybe Doflamingo's men can't beat Luo Shu, but it shouldn't be a problem to beat the people on this boat. I don't know where her self-confidence came from. If Luo Shu didn't mean to turn back, it means that he believes his crew can solve those people. After leaving the flower field, Luo Shu walked straight in the direction of Wang Zhigao. This time his speed was obviously faster. It took about half an hour. He had already arrived under the king's heights. Looking at the majestic palace above, Luo Shu smiled, and then stepped on his right foot. The body suddenly rushed towards the sky. The Doflamingo family below didn't even react. Luo Shu had already rushed into the air, but at this moment, suddenly a face appeared on the rock wall in front of him. It was so ugly and so ugly. Then a huge stone fist slammed towards Luo Shu. Luo Shu knows that this person should be Pika, one of Doflamingo's 3 highest cadres, who is capable of Shichibukai, but Shishi, is there something to do with it? Tempest kick, chaos. There is no need to draw a knife. Luo Shu's leg has already kicked towards the stone fist in front of him, and in an instant, countless tempest kick slashes flew towards the stone. Although Luo Shu's tempest kick is not as good as his slash, it's not a problem to cut steel, not to mention that it's just a stone. Killed towards that face. But at this moment, the human-like eyes disappeared at this time. Tempest kick slammed on the rock wall, aroused countless rubble, but did not hurt Luo Shu. Wanting the injured person, at this moment, suddenly appeared out of the rocks under Luo Shu. This is a dark-skinned man, wearing sunglasses, a doll's hat, and wearing a diaper, dressed up very strangely, and rushed directly towards Luo Shu. Shave. But it is a pity that Luo Shu is a person who can also shave in the air, and instantly enters the state of shave. Luo Shu disappears in place. Before this person can react, Luo Shu has already appeared. In front of him, the right fist covered with armed colors instantly hit the man's face. The huge impact directly smashed the man out and flew directly into the town from the heights of the king. He stopped after smashing through 5 buildings in a row, and at this time, he was already out of shape. Senor, 10 tons. At this moment, a voice came from Luo Shu's head. Luo Shu looked up and saw a big fat man in floral clothes flying in the sky, and then suddenly, his weight seemed to have undergone a huge change, and he slammed directly at Luo Shu. Draw a knife and cut it. Looking at the person who smashed it, Luo Shu's feiyu was unsheathed for the first time. With the flash of the knife, the big fat man in colorful clothes was directly divided into 2 by Luo Shu. The blood exploded in the air, and the fat man was already dead and could no longer die and fell to the ground. Yeah, before Luo Shu breathed a sigh of relief, at this moment an unmale and female guy dressed in high heels rushed up from the ground, kicked Luo Shu over, and saw him. This is a hateful blow, and the combat effectiveness is already violent. But dealing with Luo Shu, he is still far behind. The same kick, except that Luo Shu's legs are covered with armament hockey. When the legs crossed, only a click was heard. This person's legs were already bent in an unformed shape. Just as Luo Shu turned around in the air and prepared to kick out the tempest kick, there was an old man underneath. Suddenly rushed over. Gee! As the old man yelled, he had already come to the designated position 1 step ahead of time. If Luo Shu still wants to kick out tempest kick, it is estimated that he will hit Luo Shu first. Although Luo Shu doesn't care if he hits himself or not, he is always upset when someone interrupts his attack, so his body instantly softens, avoiding the old man's attack from an incredible angle, but at the same time, his tempest kick was also thrown out. With a sound of pie, this man and woman, like the fat man, was instantly split into 2 under the slash of tempest kick. Dellinger, no. Seeing this scene, a voice also came from the air. Luo Shu looked up and he saw a woman standing on top of a man, shouting loudly. This man at this time, the neck and limbs are constantly turning like a propeller, and it looks really amazing. Just as Luo Shu looked at these 2 people, the woman's hands turned into 2 guns, and she squeezed and clashed directly at Luo Shu, but unfortunately, her speed was still too slow. To be precise, it should be. The speed of the bullet is still too slow. Luo Shu flashed in the air and disappeared in place, but the 2 people were also very vigilant. The moment Luo Shu disappeared, they kept increasing their distance. So if Luo Shu wants to catch them, it really takes some hands and feet. Fortunately, now I have a wide range of attack skills. Looking at the 2 still flying in the air, Luo Shu smiled, his hands quickly began to seal. Fire style, Phoenix fire technique. Following Luo Shu's secret cry, his right hand was suddenly placed to his mouth, and then he spit out, instantly hundreds of fireballs about 5 meters in diameter. Towards the 2 in the air, they killed directly. How is it possible? This is fire. Seeing the fireballs sprayed out by Luo Shu, the 2 people above were stupid. In this coverage, no one can escape except Kazaru's sparkling fruit. Just as the 2 felt that they were dead, a stone palm suddenly stretched out of the rock wall and stood in front of them. Found the goal. Fire. When Hina heard what Dewey Peters said, she fired directly. The artillery on the Luo ship and those marines who used guns immediately aimed the shells and bullets at the points that had already been marked. Boom 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 boom. Amidst the sound of bombing, Diamante, who sneaked in quietly, and the 500 Doflamingo family members he brought with him, instantly suffered heavy losses. How did they know we are coming? Diamante said loudly to his hands, turning the cloak into a shield and putting it in front of him. After confirming that Luo Shu and the others were here, Doflamingo made a decision, which is exactly a plan. He gathered the other cadres of his family in front of King's Heights except for Sugar, in order to block Luo Shu, and at the same time, he sent Diamante not only to rescue Guy Sa and Monet, but also to capture Hina and Ingrid. Come hostage. With his information network, it is impossible not to know the relationship between Hina and Ingrid, and Luo Shu. This is also to persecute Luo Shu, and at the same time let Sugar find an opportunity to kill Luo Shu in one fell swoop. Yes, Doflamingo is not ready to escape, but is ready to kill Luo Shu. For him, if Luo Shu dares to come today, then he must solve Luo Shu's trouble. Assault by the whole army. Don't hide, go. At this time, Diamante, who was being baptized by artillery fire, would not have thought that Luo Shu had a full-level observation hockey, and he already knew their movements. The direction they are heading, and the approximate time they will arrive are all calculated. After telling Hina, if they have mental arithmetic and unintentional, they suffered a lot from the beginning. Following Diamante's roar, his men jumped out for the first time and headed towards Luo Shu's boat with a gun and a knife. Although the number of these people is more than twice that of Luo Shu's crew, for Luo Shu's crew, they are actually nothing. Accurate weapon attacks keep these people on the way to the charge. Even if some people rush over to fight hand to hand, do you think that these Marines who have learned Luo Shu's 6 styles are not these ordinary opponents? It can be a one-sided form from the beginning of the battle. The people of the Doflamingo family are constantly getting injured, falling, and dying, all of which can be seen in Diamante's eyes. Although they didn't care about these deaths, but if this continued, his mission could not be completed. Thinking of this, Diamante instantly turned into a piece of cloth and floated directly onto the ship. Black gun. But at this moment, a soft drink came from the side, only seeing Hina's right hand flicked, and instantly a black iron rod was made by her. As she threw it hard, the iron rod was directed towards Diamante flew over. Bullfighting cloak. Diamante yelled as he looked at the iron rods rushing over, and while instantly regaining his prototype, the cloak behind him was immediately torn up. With a loud bang, the black spear and the bullfighting cloak collided with each other, making a loud noise. Although it had knocked Diamante back a lot, it was of no use. Oh ha 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 ha, I have eaten the fluttering fruit, you are dead. Seeing Hina's weapon ineffective against her, Diamante suddenly laughed, and flicked the long sword in her right hand. An instant slash slashed towards Luo Shu's boat. Fence. Looking at the slash that came over, Hina's hands were ringed, and then a row of black iron prisons were created to surround the ship, although Hina's black spear just did not do anything to Diamante. It hurts, but the same slash from Diamante was also useless to Hina's fence, but Diamante took advantage of this opportunity and floated onto the ship. But just as he floated over, a huge sword slashed directly at him. With a crisp sound of ding, Diamante's figure retreated violently, and looked at the attacker in a panic. This person was not someone else but Ingrid. She actually has such strength. Diamante panicked as she watched Ingrid's feet flashing and killing him again. When they made this plan, they thought that the main enemy on the ship was Hina, because it seemed to them that Ingrid was not strong. After all, she has only been with Luo Shu not long ago, and there is no picture of fighting. It is Hina who overpowers Monet. No one knows how strong Ingrid is. But now, they know it. Slash. Looking at Ingrid who struck, Diamante suddenly slashed out again, but Hina leaned in at this moment. Another iron fence blocked the slash. At the same time Ingrid jumped, flew over the fence and Hina, waved both hands, and killed Diamante with a slash. Jian Hao. It is Jian Hao who can release a slash. Diamante couldn't even imagine that this Ingrid was a Jian Hao. There may not be 10 great swordsmen in the world together, and the name Diamante does not exist among these people. He is also a swordsman, just relying on the power of flying fruits to make him attack it becomes even more weird. But when it comes to hard power, he is actually half a caddy to Ingrid now. What's more, there is Hina next to Ingrid. Hina's attack power may not have much effect on the flying fruit Diamante, but the defensive power is absolutely unbreakable by Diamante, and they are both. The tacit understanding of this kind of combination, no wonder Luo Shu is not worried. Seeing Ingrid's slash, Diamante immediately took out a small box, and a huge hammer appeared in his hand and slammed directly at the slash. Although this blow smashed the slash, Ingrid and Hina over there have both killed them. Hey, at this time, Luo Shu in King's Heights couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his mouth. Because of his observation hockey, he naturally saw the battle on the ship. Boom 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 boom. At this moment, his phoenix fire also hit the stone hand that Pika had transformed, but unfortunately, he overestimated his stone hand's defensive power. The temperature of Luo Shu's fire is 3000 degrees, and the stone is not so resistant to high temperature. The melting point of granite is 1000 degrees, marble is only 825 degrees, even pebbles are only 1480 degrees, 3000 degrees high temperature, Pika can't stand it. As the flame hit the stone hand, a violent explosion occurred. The heat wave instantly swallowed his stone hand. The stone hand fell down like magma, but even so, he only blocked more than a dozen shots. Phoenix fire is nothing but Luo Shu's 99 level Phoenix fire is, and there are more than 80, still rushing towards the two people. With a loud noise of boom, the flames in the air exploded, and the two people fell directly from the air like a kite with a broken wire. Not only did they lose their consciousness, they were almost scorched, if they were earthlings. His physical fitness has long been dead and can't die anymore, but the world of One Piece, the life of mankind, is really not ordinary hard. At this moment, two pieces of slime flew out of the palace at the highest point. After they were rolled up, they were pulled back into the palace. Seeing this scene, Luo Shu's right foot stepped on, and Moonwalk instantly rose again and headed towards the palace. But at this moment, the old man who rushed past and the Pika in the stone appeared at the same time, trying to stop Luo Shu. And this time, Luo Shu didn't control Pika, but pointed his hand at the old man who killed him in the air, that is, Rao Ji. Finger pistol. Looking at the old man who killed him, Luo Shu's hands connected. In an instant, countless finger pistols rushed towards him and killed him. The old man couldn't dodge in the air. Those finger pistols hit him with every shot. Blood holes popped up in his body. At first he intentionally wanted to get out of the key, but as finger pistol became more and more vigorous, he had no chance. After dozens of finger pistol, his body was also in the air like a bird with a broken wing. It fell powerlessly down, and hit the ground with a bang. But in order to deal with Rao Ji, Luo Shu gave Pika a chance. Pika's hand held Luo Shu for the first time. Pika Pika Pika, you are careless, you are dead. The sharp voice of Pika rang when he held Luo Shu, and roared with a dark face. Ha 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 ha, your voice is too loud, by the way, do you know 100,000 volts? Although Luo Shu was caught by him at this time, he didn't care at all. Hearing Luo Shu mocking his own voice, Pika's eyes were about to burst out, instantly increasing his grip strength, but I don't know why. His grip strength has been increased to the maximum, but it still did not cause any damage to Luo Shu. It hurts, even his hands can't be clenched. He can clearly feel that Luo Shu is in his hand, but he can't hold his hand tightly. Why? Pika really didn't understand. As for why, it's actually very easy to explain. The iron body of the full level plus the armament hockey of the full level is such an existence. It looks like you don't know how to 100,000 volts anymore, you can't, I teach you. Looking at Pika, Luo Shu's hands outside began to form quickly. Luo Shu was actually caught by Pika deliberately, because the speed of this guy hiding in the rock wall was too fast, and the King's Heights was too big, even Luo Shu could not kill Pai who had been hiding inside. Card, but now he has other ways. Lightning style, go. As Luo Shu's seal was over, his hand suddenly patted Pika's arm. The stone is originally non-conductive, but it depends on the amount of voltage. Nothing is absolute, so when Luo Shu's ground patted Pika's body, the powerful current suddenly began. Rushed to the surroundings. Earth walk, lightning style, sea level ninjutsu, LV99, you can use 30 million volts of power to cover all the ground within a kilometer centered on yourself. Although the stone does not conduct electricity, when Luo Shu's ground walk directly covers the entire range of Pika's possession, the conduction of electricity does not actually have much effect. Yeah, as the electric lights continued to flicker, Pika's screams continued to come, and the paralysis caused by the electric shock made Pika unable to even escape. As the current continued to increase, Pika's consciousness gradually disappeared, and his body shape slowly emerged from the stone from the position in the middle of the figure. Seeing this scene, Luo Shu broke off and walked instantly, and then stepped on both feet, and suddenly rushed towards Pika. Without saying a word, Feiyu in his hand, after a single pluck was also cut, Pika also broke and killed. Pika and Luo Shu didn't even look at them. Instead, they jumped directly to the upper floor of the palace with Moonwalk. When he came here, he saw a Toripal which looked like a pile of snot from a distance. There was a little girl wearing a crown beside him, plus Doflamingo sitting on the throne not far away. Fire style, great fireball technique. After Luo Shu flew up, he had no intention of chatting. He directly used a fire style great fireball technique. The huge fireball instantly moved towards the platform. Doflamingo did not expect Luo Shu to even say hello, and directly attacked. The fireball hit the platform almost instantly, and all three of them were affected. But after the fireball's boom, burst, there was another boom, immediately. This sound was louder than the first because the mucus on Toripal's body could explode, so when Luo the moment Shu's flame ignited, he was also affected. With a bang, he exploded directly like a gas tank, and the sugar beside him. Originally Luo Shu was still thinking whether he would use Seastone to deal with her, but he didn't expect it, but by mistake. Let her endure 2 explosions at close range, and directly blew out. When she fell to the ground, she also lost consciousness. When Luo Shu fell on this platform from the air, there were still many places on the platform burning flames. Luo Shu's observation hockey swept away and found Toripal's body and sugar, but when he looked towards at the time of Doflamingo, he was not on the throne, there was only a ball of scorched thread. At this moment, a fragment flashed in Luo Shu's mind, which made him flash to the side in an instant. At this moment, a few invisible lines were cut in the position where Luo Shu originally stood. Looking in the direction of the line, Doflamingo is standing far away with a grim face, staring at Luo Shu firmly. For him, everything he built over the years was ruined by Luo Shu in just a few hours. He is regarded as a cadre of his family. Now the death and the wounds, nothing makes him more angry. Of it. And as the sugar was beaten and lost consciousness, the people of Dressrosa who became toys also slowly changed back to humans. As people's memories were restored, the whole Dressrosa began to riot, because everyone knew about Doflamingo's evil reigns. You, asshole. Listening to the roar from below, Doflamingo's right hand was suddenly raised, and countless silk threads came out of his hand and quickly enveloped Dressrosa. This trick, the name it's called birdcage. What's the use of your trick? Is it useful? Looking up, Luo Shu looked at the birdcage made up of countless threads above his head, and asked with some confusion. Hey, it looks like you definitely don't understand. My name is Birdcage, no one can get out of me, and this birdcage will slowly shrink, cutting the city, the residents here. Now that everyone here knows my secret, they will all die. Looking at Luo Shu, Doflamingo laughed frantically. But when he heard what he said, Luo Shu became even more confused. Does this make any sense? Aren't you Marine? There are countless people waiting for you to save you, you are so indifferent. Seeing Luo Shu still looking puzzled, the blue veins on Doflamingo's forehead jumped. What the hell did I meet? What that means, although I really want to say, my foot, but if you say so, it seems a bit unsatisfactory, but I still want to say shit, and yours this thread is a bit too second. How long do you think you can hold on to me? He lowered his head and looked at the guy who threatened him with the lives of the people of the whole country. Luo Shu said with a light smile. Seeing Luo Shu's innocuous look, there are more blue veins on Doflamingo's head, but Luo Shu doesn't care about it. Turkey, tell me the news about who wants to buy my life. Maybe I will give you a happy one, and the province will have to interrogate you. Looking at Doflamingo's appearance, Luo Shu continued with a smile, but he hasn't spoken yet. After falling, Doflamingo over there has directly killed him. As a celestial dragons, what is the most unbearable thing about Doflamingo? That's because others don't give him face. Well, although it's a bit weird to say that, this is the reality. Luo Shu not only calls him a turkey, but also kills so many cadres. It can be said that he and Luo Shu have already. It's not universal. Now it's useless to talk more about it, and it's better to do it directly. With a flick of his right hand, dozens of thin lines suddenly gathered together, like a whip, directly slamming towards Luo Shu. But Luo Shu just kicked with his right foot, and a tempest kick kicked over. Doflamingo had to get out of the way immediately, and the overstrike whip in his hand was directly cut into two by tempest kick's slash. When he retreated, his right hand also directly released a lot of bullet strings and shot towards Luo Shu, which corresponds to Luo Shu's finger pistol, but the same point. Obviously Luo Shu's finger pistol is better. Those bullet strings were crushed by Luo Shu's finger pistol directly in the air, and finger pistol then directly hit Doflamingo's body, knocking him down and flying out. Skeptical smiley face greater than at this moment, Luo Shu's shave followed. Ji Yin. I came to Doflamingo's side almost instantly, a knife flashed, and the knife was already used. Doflamingo knew how terrifying this trick was, and put his hands together and instantly released a few spider's web walls, but it's a pity, this thing is still like a thin piece of paper. After hearing a babble, the thickened spider's web wall was instantly broken by Luo Shu. Although Doflamingo, who was behind the spider's web wall, was retreating rapidly, he was directly cut through the body by this blow. Fell out. If you only have these two blows, then you may be going to die. Looking at Doflamingo who fell into the distance, Luo Shu shrugged and shook the raindrops in his hands, covering it with thick armament hockey, walked towards Doflamingo. Ha 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 ha, you are the first one to try this kind of ability of mine, go to hell, Wanglang White Line. Holding his head, Doflamingo slowly stood up from the ground and watched the huge cut from his own Hun's mouth is constantly bleeding. Doflamingo is already a little crazy. As he talks, he pats his right hand directly on the ground, and the entire palace is directly incarnate in an instant. It became a silk thread, really like a wave, and patted it towards Luo Shu. Awakening skills. Seeing this white line wave, Luo Shu's eyes narrowed. He has seen the advanced form of devil fruit in a book that Ain once gave him. According to Marine, it can also be said that the world government's hierarchical evaluation of devil fruit. There are three forms of devil fruit: use, control, and awakening. Use is that you can use the power of this devil fruit familiarly, and control is that you can fully control the power of this devil fruit, another metaphorical way. The Straw Hat Boy in the original book, Luffy, was in a state of use at the very beginning. When he reached the ultimate state of rubber fruit, he would combine the power of the fruit to develop something that was not originally a fruit: strength. For example, the second gear, third gear, and fourth gear developed later, all belong to the control level, and the awakening is also the embodiment of the highest degree of development of devil fruit. Because in a sense, awakening is already considered a semi-regular existence. For example, Doflamingo can turn everything else into a line, which is unexplainable by science and is of a semi-regular nature, and it is really too difficult to reach this level. To awaken, Zone Devil Fruit is the easiest, followed by Paramesha, and Logia. It is almost impossible to reach the awakening level. But looking at the overwhelming silk thread, Luo Shu just chuckled, his hands quickly knotted, and he blew hard. Fire style, great fireball technique. With the heat from Luo Shu's throat, a giant great fireball with a diameter of 20 meters appeared in front of Luo Shu. The moment the Wanglang White Line touched the flame, it collapsed directly. No matter what kind of thread, whether it is cotton thread, fishing thread, silk thread or gold thread, it is afraid of fire. This is an indisputable fact. So when the Wanglang White Line hit the flame, it was almost immediately scorched. The fireball slammed into Doflamingo in an instant. Looking at the rushing fireball, Doflamingo's hand kept waving, hoping to use a thread to form a shield to block the flames, but unfortunately, he may not be very good in physics. The flame eventually broke through the shield formed by the line and killed it. Bang! With a loud noise, Doflamingo flew out while spraying blood, and Luo Shu also rushed over directly with moonwalk at this time. Go to hell! Looking at Luo Shu who was chasing over, Doflamingo yelled, waved his hands, and suddenly in other rooms nearby, they all turned into threads, covering armament hockey, and pierced directly toward Luo Shu. Come over. Sacred Fierce Bullets God Kills. This move is Doflamingo's ultimate move. When the fruit ability develops and awakens, it will cover armament hockey and conqueror's hockey with the greatest power. According to the second form theory, the longer the name, the greater the power. But obviously, this is not true for Luo Shu. He has never given his skills too many names. Slash is slash, and slash is enough. Seeing the shots shimmering with black and purple light, the 16 shots made of threads are not cones facing towards me, the rain in Luo Shu's hands immediately covered armament hockey, and it grew with Luo Shu. With a sigh of relief, he also directly waved Feiyu out with the utmost strength. The huge slash almost collided with the 16 sacred fierce bullets divine punishment in the instant it was swung, and the entire space seemed to collapse at this time. A powerful wave of energy suddenly spread to the surrounding area. Even the energy of this blow caused a tsunami in the open sea and attracted the attention of all Dressrosa people. There is, the marine soldier. At this time, the streets of Dressrosa were actually quite chaotic. Hearing the noise in the air, many people raised their heads and looked over there, and one of them personally, he recognized Luo Shu. After Luo Shu defeated Granulated Sugar, the toy soldier had changed back to Cyrus, and everyone remembered what they had forgotten. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Cyrus and the villains began to fight back. And Violet, who had the staring fruit, also found out at the first time. The Doflamingo group that they seemed to be unable to beat, now only Doflamingo is left with a polished thought order, so he immediately organized it and was loyal to King Liku. The people began to attack. The national people across the country are still quite far apart from the 1,500 Wuhei people who have no cadres under Doflamingo. While the results below are slowly expanding, the battle above is about to be determined. Doflamingo's move is indeed good, but the problem is that he can't win. Luo Shu's current physical strength is stronger than him. His kendo strength and hockey strength are far better than those of Doflamingo. In addition to the sword has a blade. For the upper line, the sword is also superior, occupying the entire line. How can Doflamingo not crash in an excellent situation? Kaka. With a burst of faint voices, Doflamingo found that his 16 sacred fierce bullets god-slaying killer was gradually defeated, and he was really scared. How can I lose? I will never lose. Doflamingo shouted loudly as he watched the lower and lower slash. I don't know if it's true that you can yell in desperate situations and you can be violent. Luo Shu likes to call this the protagonist's halo on. Obviously, Doflamingo is the protagonist here. With his roar, Conqueror's hockey suddenly spread to the surroundings. This is the first time Luo Shu has been hit by Conqueror's hockey. It's very uncomfortable. This is to tell the truth. Although they want to stun Luo Shu or something, it is their wishful thinking. Even if the red hair comes with Whitebeard, Luo Shu will not faint. But that kind of uncomfortable feeling does exist. While disturbing the mind, it also suppresses power to a certain extent. Although it only suppresses less than 5% of Luo Shu's power, if it is a well-matched battle, 5%, the impact is great. Conquerors closed his eyes and realized it. Luo Shu realized that he didn't have this talent, even if he wanted to. He was an IT otaku in the previous life. He has woolen hockey and personality charm. In this life, he has only become younger. Besides, it can almost be said to be worn by meat. Under such circumstances, how could he have Conqueror's hockey? He murmured in his heart. Luo Shu sighed, and it seemed that he was indeed not this piece of material. Some people said that Luo Shu was distracted while fighting. Actually, you have to see what kind of battle it is. If Luo Shu is in front of the 3 admiral, 4 emperors, then he must not be distracted. Even if he confronts Hawkeye, he has to do his best. But Doflamingo, he is just a little rubbish. He broke Conquerors, he can withstand the slash. Why is he so naive? Not to mention that his current Conquerors can't provoke a physical shock attack. Even if he can, then he can't shake Luo Shu's slash. The slash still broke the interception of 16 sacred fierce bullets god-slaying in an unstoppable manner, and slammed in front of Doflamingo with a thunder and thunder bell jingling. With a look of horror on his face, he slashed directly on his body, and the huge impact directly smashed him from midair to the ground, and the palace of Doflamingo was hollowed out. Above is the palace, in the middle is the toy house, and below is the dock and factory. Luo Shu's blow directly caused him to break through the 2 layers of the toy and directly hit the dock. As the slash disappeared, Doflamingo sank deeply on the ground of the dock covered with blood. At this time, near the pier and the cadre tower, there was actually a pot of porridge. There were 3 parties who were fighting, and they turned back to human-shaped toys, Doflamingo's men, and the pirates who came to buy weapons. Ghost tires are all fighting. But when Doflamingo was hit directly from above, these people were completely quiet. Birdcage hadn't started to shrink before it disappeared slowly, while Luo Shu slowly jumped off the moonwalk from the entrance of the cave. When Luo Shu fell by Doflamingo's side, those people were going crazy. Now it is not difficult for them to guess that Luo Shu should be the one who killed Doflamingo. Looking at Doflamingo falling in a pool of blood, Luo Shu went up and kicked him directly in the mouth. The huge pain made him wake up again, but unfortunately, besides coughing up blood, he now has everything. Can't do it. Hey, you haven't answered my question yet. Looking at Doflamingo, who is not as good as dead, Luo Shu smiled and looked at him, and said flatly. Hee hee hum hum, cough. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Doflamingo laughed, then coughed up blood. It's okay to tell you, it's my aunt and I who will kill you. Looking at Luo Shu, Doflamingo smiled crazily. Charlotte Linlin, I can understand. After all, I have severely injured his 3 children. Now New World is in a mess. It is not convenient for her to leave the world to make trouble for me, so I can accept the reward, but why do you want to kill? What about me? Looking at Doflamingo, Luo Shu asked curiously, he was really curious. Because you are a person who will offend God. Staring at Luo Shu, Doflamingo said breathlessly. After hearing Doflamingo's words, Luo Shu understood. In fact, to put it plainly, although Doflamingo's goal is to destroy celestial dragons, his goal is only to destroy celestial dragons. In his heart, he and celestial dragons are still one. To put it another way, say you have a mobile phone, but it was snatched by your brother. You want to snatch it back, so you have used a lot of brains for this. You can allow yourself to snatch the phone back and break it, but you absolutely cannot allow the second brother of the neighbor to snatch your phone and play it badly. This is absolutely impossible. This world looks like a game field in celestial dragons. And when Luo Shu, a guy who dared to offend celestial dragons, exists, not only does he have to accompany the billion, but he also hates Luo Shu. Originally, Charlotte Linlin only offered a reward of 300 million to kill Luo Shu, but when he got here, it became 500 million, and he took out the 200 million. After hearing the 21st case he wanted to know, Luo Shu nodded. In that case, there is no need for Doflamingo to exist. When Luo Shu flicked Feiyu in his hand, he only heard a click. Doflamingo's head was cut off by him, and he hung it around his waist. Luo Shu looked around, and when he saw it when the 3 forces were fighting in the distance, he didn't take the knife back, so he drew it again. The pirate ships that stopped at the port in an instant were directly cut off, and the original pirates of those ships were suffering at this time. Originally, they were still here because they wanted to make money. Yes, looking at it now, I'm dead. Because there are still a lot of people on Dressrosa, and if they die, one is missing. Luo Shu doesn't care about these people and never despairs. Now after a few consecutive moonwalks, he has returned to the upper level. After landing, Luo Shu's first thought was to look for the little human race, because he said that if he helped kill Doflamingo, the little human race would send some people to hire him to help him grow things, just when he was going to go. While looking for the little human race, he suddenly found that there were quite a few people in front of the palace. After Luo Shu's observation hockey swept over, he discovered that it was originally a trial meeting. The people surrounded by were not others, but the cadres of the Doflamingo family who had not died. Some of them are still in a coma. In the state, some were already sober, looking at the people around who seemed to be eating them with trembling. Originally, Luo Shu would not care about how these people are. Although he is not a religious person, he is very clear about the causes and results of his cultivation. It is precisely because of their constant oppression and deception that these people hate them so much and want to kill them. However, when Luo Shu's observation hockey seed that there were several men's hands stretching towards a hidden place of a female cadre over there, Luo Shu's footsteps could not help but stop. Swipe. With a soft sound, a slash flew directly over there. Feeling the danger, these citizens immediately gave way to a passage, looking at Luo Shu who was still kicking with a look of horror. Hi, Marine, what are you going to do? Watching Luo Shu's movements, the men surrounding the front could not help but shout. Who let your dog's paw touch my captive? Looking at these people with disdain, a joking expression flashed across Luo Shu's face. The human mind can never be guessed, and you can never believe that all people are good. Of course, Luo Shu would not pity others. Poor people must be hateful. He knows this truth very well. Therefore, he does things not based on laws or regulations, but just based on his instincts. He wants to kill Doflamingo, then kill him. He doesn't want to see these people doing disgusting things, then he will stop these people. This is his justice. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the civilians here couldn't help taking a step back, looking at Luo Shu with horror, because everyone knew how these cadres were hurt. Now they look at Luo. Except for some traces of dust, Shu didn't even break his hair. How could they dare to provoke someone from the Doflamingo family alone for more than 10 minutes? Before they knew it, these people widened the scope and looked at Luo Shu with horror. Hey, did Hina solve it? Seeing these people walk away, Luo Shu also walked up to the prisoners, took out a phone worm and started talking. Just solved it, where is your side? Hina just heard a big noise, and then saw a hood covering Dressrosa. Hina is still a little worried about you. Hearing Luo Shu's voice, Hina also smiled. Said, I have solved it here too. Now there are some prisoners. Bring some people over and take them away. After a smile, Luo Shu knew that Hina and Ingrid would be fine. Hey, Walsh separates 1/3 of the people and follows me to receive the prisoners. After hanging up the phone, Hina looked down on the deck, with 2 huge wounds on her body. Amonte said with a soft smile. To be honest, if Diamante is not here but 2 other people, the people on this boat are really not good at fighting, but Diamante, is really weak. After skillfully raising Diamond Daizu and throwing it into the lowest seastone cell, 1/3 of the people got off the boat with Hina and went to the central square of Dressrosa. Now the prisoners are there. When Hina and the others arrived here, they saw Luo Shu sitting on a rock and digging out his ears, and beside him, there was a vacuum. The people of Dressrosa looked at Luo Shu and told the truth. It is very tangled. They were grateful to Luo Shu for defeating Doflamingo, but on the one hand, they were dissatisfied with Luo Shu's refusal to let them take revenge. Fortunately, these dissatisfactions were just minor problems, and Luo Shu himself didn't care. He may only care about the value of his justice now. As for the people's sentiments, he is not prepared to overthrow the world government. These things are all minor problems. When Hina arrived, Luo Shu also exchanged a look with her. Hina immediately ordered the people to arrest all the cadres of the Doflamingo family, and Luo Shu took the lead in the direction of his ship, and at the same time turned the phone. The worm touched it out, ready to explain the situation here with Marshal Sengoku. This hero, please wait. But at this moment, a voice suddenly stopped Luo Shu from behind. Luo Shu looked back and found that he did not know when. 5 people walked out of the crowd. The leader was an old man with white hair, and beside him was a very pretty woman in a backless outfit, a girl who was still wearing a gladiator outfit, only covering important positions, a man who had only 1 leg and a sword. The last one is obviously a follower, a strong man walking behind the 4. It's the king. It's Violet-sama. It's Reeb, Ka, and Captain Cyrus. Seeing that it was these people, the crowd next to him also burst into violent cheers. Now Doflamingo has fallen, and logically speaking, he should return to King Liku, who is loyal to peace. So now Likawang's popularity is rapidly increasing. Looking at the old man in front of him, Luo Shu couldn't help but curl his lips. It seemed that he was not the one who defeated Doflamingo. Although he didn't care, he always felt a little uncomfortable. We really appreciate your help. If it's not for you, if not, thank you very much. Looking at Luo Shu, who was standing there, King Liku came forward and stammered. After that, he bowed his head in front of Luo Shu. With his movements, the people behind him also knelt down for the first time. Seeing that the royal family was kneeling, the civilians who had some prejudice against Luo Shu also knelt down, and they could see that although they hadn't seen each other for 8 years, after King Liku saved people's hearts, this popularity was indeed not ordinary. People can compare. Because speaking of him, apart from being a little too weak and completely dovish, he is really a good king. Luo Shu doesn't want to talk about conspiracy theories, even if they are for fame, they can be a good king for fame. It is also worthy of joy. King Liku has been guarding these common people for 800 years in this land. It is not an exaggeration to say that they love the people like their children. For such people, Luo Shu does not mean to blacken the other side. Although Luo Shu seems to have problems with his country's governance policy, he did not say much. The national conditions of each place are different. He is not the person here, and there is no need to say it. Remember, we said yes, I will help you defeat Doflamingo, and then you arrange a few small human races to board my ship. I did not kidnap them, but hired them to plant a thing for me. They have holidays, they can change at any time, I will also pay them salary or what they need, just remember this. Randomly waved to the people behind him, and then Luo Shu continued to step forward and walked towards the direction of the boat. Looking at Luo Shu's back, in fact, people in this country are really a little confused. Stop them in the dungeon. After getting on the boat, Luo Shu directly told Marine next to him. In fact, he didn't want to catch these prisoners, but he didn't think it was a good idea not to catch them. I caught it, but it was really troublesome. Originally, he was still thinking about going directly to the ants' world to find him afterwards, but now it seems that at least he has to go back and solve the problems of these prisoners first. And if they were to be imprisoned in Infiltrating, the only G5 capable of escorting them was himself. Thinking of that, he had to go back to the first half of the Grand Line. Luo Shu felt a little headache. It's really time-consuming to come here. Wait a minute, is this little girl also the cadre of Doflamingo? Just as Marine was about to escort all these people away, Ingrid approached from the side and asked Luo Shu with some doubts. The sugar at this time is indeed very conspicuous. She has not yet woken up. The childlike fruit not only freezes her height, but also freezes her body. Her physical fitness is actually very poor. She couldn't wake up in 2 or 3 days. At this moment, she was on the back of Baby-5, but both of them were handcuffed with sea stone. Don't underestimate her, this girl is called granulated sugar. She is a user of childlike fruits. She is actually 20 years old. You must never open the sea stone handcuffs. Her hands will turn people into toys, and other people's memory will delete this person's information. She is considered a half-rule fruit user. Looking at the curiosity and pity in Ingrid's eyes, Luo Shu said directly to her. After hearing what Luo Shu said, the people on the boat couldn't help getting serious. They all believed what Luo Shu said. Since Luo Shu said this guy is terrible, then this guy is terrible. Even the pity in Ingrid's eyes disappeared instantly, and she would never violate Luo Shu. Sand, sugar, sugar. At this moment, Monet, who was locked in the room, suddenly yelled, as if hearing the sound of dialogue outside. She yelled so loudly that she could hear it almost all over the bow of the ship. Listening to Monet, there were some broken and trembling voices. Luo Shu and Hina looked at each other. Since the woman was arrested, she has said less than 5 sentences in total. Why is she suddenly so crazy now? Sugar, is Monet's sister. After all, after living together for a long time, Baby-5 is familiar with Monet's voice. After listening to the heart-piercing roar, Baby-5 explained to Luo Shu. Oh, that's it, if that's the case, then this little girl still has some use. Luo Shu said, touching his chin when he heard Baby-5. What do you want to do? Gently stabbed Luo Shu with the tip of the elbow. Hina looked at him with some alertness. Luo Shu wasn't thinking about anything, something messy, right? Aren't you arresting Monet to let her serve you as a sparring partner? For Monet, the 2 most important people, one is Doflamingo, have been killed by me, and the other is Monet. If we can control this little girl, then Monet will be at ease for you as a sparring partner. I completely ignored Hina's gaze, Luo Shu said happily while looking at the sky. Hearing what Luo Shu said, Hina was speechless. Well, it seems that after so long, Luo Shu's EQ has not improved significantly. But fortunately, he didn't want to hit the little girl's idea, it was very important. The second daughter of the Dressrosa royal family, Violet, and the villains are here. At this moment, Rayleigh George, who was under the boat, came to the boat and said to Luo Shu. Finally here, Luo Shu smiled when he heard Rayleigh George's words, and immediately opened the store. He was about to buy something that he had enjoyed for a long time. I don't know if it was because of the killing of Doflamingo. Luo Shu originally had a justice value of less than 80,000. At this time, he actually made rapid progress, reaching 200,000. Seeing this number, Luo Shu nodded with satisfaction. It seems that Doflamingo is indeed valuable, and he quickly found what he was looking for, fairy beans. Shondo, a specialty food in the Dragon Ball world. This little bean, like a broad bean, has magical powers. It can instantly heal any injury. As long as it is not dead, it will instantly resurrect on the spot and restore all its physical strength. But this thing has no effect on illness. The fairy bean is embarrassing when it comes to positioning. You say it is not important, but it is also very important, but if you say it is important, it is actually not too rare. Karen Immortals can breed some fairy beans every year. However, it can be seen that the output of fairy beans is indeed not high. After previous accumulation, the fairy beans came out in the forum at the earliest, but later it had to be settled. It can be said that the strength of the Z fighters can advance by leaps and bounds, and this thing is inseparable. It may not be too rare. The price of fairy beans in the 6th level world is actually not high, each with only 5,000 justice value, but the 4th level world buys things from the 6th level world. First this thing needs X2, then X5, after all, there are 2 classes. In this calculation, a fairy bean is worth 50,000 points of justice. To be honest, Luo Shu is a bit distressed, but no matter how distressed it is, there are too few things to save his life in this world, and this playful response is indispensable. But it would be too wasteful to spend justice value to buy it all the time, so Luo Shu would think of looking for the reason for the villain. The villain claims that all kinds of plants can be cultivated. If they can cultivate this thing, then Luo Shu can safely die boldly. Luo Shu Rear Admiral, hello. Luo Shu, hello. In the living room on the deck, Luo Shu met Violet and some people from the villain. After these people saw Luo Shu, they directly bowed down. After all, for them, Luo Shu was their great benefactor. Don't be too polite, after all, I have to rely on everyone in the future. Sit down. With a smile, Luo Shu said directly to several people. Under the leadership of Violet, several people also sat on the sofa next to them. Jody had already prepared drinks and pastries, and then delivered them immediately. For these human foods, the little humans seemed to like to eat them very much. Master Luo Shu, I don't know what you want us to nurture this time. After all, it is related to his own tribe, so Gan Chao, the patriarch of the little human tribe, didn't have much time to get together with his daughter, so he followed Wei directly. This is what I want you to help nurture. Luo Shu took out the fairy beans as he said, but he still guarded against Yao's hands. His full-level observation haki was always on, just for beware of any problems. With his full-level observation haki ability, it should be impossible for someone in this world to steal something from him. This is a bean. Is it something like a magic bean? Looking at the beans Luo Shu took out, a villain in green clothes next to Gan Chao asked curiously. The magic beans he said are like the beans on Sky Island that go straight to higher levels. That thing is also rare. No, it's not. This kind of beans is called fairy beans. It took me a lot of work to get them back. Each one can recover a lot of physical strength, but the output is very low, and it is extremely expensive. I wonder if your little human race can nurture this thing. Luo Shu also laughed when he heard what the little man said. What he said is true and false, because Shondo can not only recover a lot of physical strength, but also recover injuries, but Luo Shu did not say clearly. But just recovering a lot of physical strength, this made Violet extremely surprised. There is such a magical thing in this world, it's great. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the people of the little human race cried out in excitement, and then began to observe the fairy beans. They wanted to see, how does this thing have such power? Mr. Luo Shu, can this fairy bean be cultivated? Looking at the little bean, Violet suddenly spoke to Luo Shu. No, but Luo Shu interrupted her without waiting for her to finish. You can't imagine the price of this bean, and its output is really difficult to guarantee. So the cultivation can only be done with me, but if the cultivation is successful and you want a few life-saving beans, you can. Looking at Violet, Luo Shu said solemnly. Seeing Luo Shu's decisive attitude, Violet also smiled awkwardly. She also knew that her proposal was a bit excessive. We are very interested in this bean. We can arrange for several people to take care of these little guys. At this time, Gan Chao next to the bean also raised his head and said excitedly to Luo Shu. Obviously, we can cultivate new ones. The plants, which made him very happy. That's great, I don't know how your salary is calculated. Luo Shu smiled and nodded when Gan Chao agreed, and then asked them. We don't need money. You saved our detained companion. It is reasonable for us to help you. After hearing Luo Shu's words, the little man in green couldn't help turning around. Said with a serious face. This is not good. 1 yard is 1 yard. You are helping me work. I am not a slave owner. If you don't need money, what do you want? I can use what you want as wages. Shook his head, Luo Shu did not intend to use the villain for nothing. If Mr. Luo Shu wants to give some wages, I think our Liku royal family can help. Seeing Luo Shu's resolute appearance, Violet spoke again and heard her words. Luo Shu and Xiaorenzu looked at her together. Half an hour later, as there were a few loud noises in the deep sea, several huge sea kings rolled their belly and popped out of the water. Then Luo Shu's figure also appeared from the ocean and took the shore people and threw them over. Luo Shu's hooks hung on these sea kings. With the joint force of the king's army and marine on the shore, these sea kings were also pulled to the shore, looking at the fish and the people of the little human race not far away, their eyes were shining. The little humans are very good at planting plants, so they are not short of vegetables, fruits and other things to eat, and they do not eat insects, so it is very troublesome to want to eat meat. Sometimes it may not be possible to catch a betta fish to eat for a few months, but now Luo Shu has solved their food ration for more than a year. Dig a hole, bury some soil, several 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dang, the fairy bean does not grow so fast, but the speed of germination is a bit beyond Luo Shu's expectation. On the second day Luo Shu left Dressrosa, the 2 fairy beans he exchanged for had already sprouted. He specially created a room on the deck for the little human race. The main body is made of wood, wrapped with iron sheet and sea stone. It is a room dedicated to cultivating fairy beans. Originally, he wanted to open a marine room directly below. However, considering that Shondo needs sunshine and rain, he specially built one here. Looking at the busy little human race, Luo Shu sat on the ground with satisfaction, thinking happily that if fairy beans can really grow, then the issue of training needs to be considered carefully. The reason why Luo Shu is not training now is because he no longer needs to train. The most important point of physical training is to break through the limits of his physical body, which means he needs to be tired. But since he switched armament hockey to ultimate, his body has entered the level of a great swordsman. This is already the highest level in the world, and because of the digitization, the physical quality he has ascended will not drop. But now this body is too difficult to make him tired. Normal exercise, maybe 10 days of continuous exercise, he will have the slightest effect. Without eating, sleeping and resting, it is possible for 10 days in a row, but Luo Shu is obviously not the kind of person who can squeeze himself so much, so he has been there is no exercise. Exercising doesn't make much sense to him anymore. This can also be seen from the original work. At the beginning, Zoro will often exercise, but in the later stage, especially 2 years later, because physical exercise is now dispensable for Luo Shu, their level is even higher. The important thing is to understand the heart. The occasional exercise is to prevent your physical fitness from degrading, but the problem is that Luo Shu's physical fitness will not decline, which is very embarrassing. If I have fairy beans, do I want to get a gravity room, but what can I do? The technology in this world obviously does not have the effect of a gravity room, but if you want to exchange it, it is so expensive. Scratching his head, Shondo is now on the right track, but Luo Shu is still helpless with the gravity chamber. The gravity room is a very important thing in Dragon Ball. Goku and Vegeta break through the Super Saiyan almost through this thing. This technology can be said to be the second most important technological invention in the Dragon Ball world besides the time machine, so the price of this game is also very scary. The gravity room in the Dragon Ball world sells for 300 king coins, which is 3 million justice value. According to the world classification, if Luo Shu wants to buy it, he has to spend 30 million justice value. 30 million, I will do the 4 emperors again. I don't know if there are 10 million, 30 million, it's difficult for some strong people. Luo Shu muttered softly. While thinking about it, Luo Shu returned to his recliner. Luo Shu Rear Admiral, please help me get some sunscreen. Just as Luo Shu was about to lie down, a voice came from him. Luo Shu turned his head and took a look, and found a woman with a hot tan skin, lying next to Luo Shu, with long black hair, a delicate face, and a hot body. It was undoubtedly obvious, but Luo Shu looked at it. There was a hint of uncomfortable expression in her eyes. Go and get it by yourself, there are no long legs. Luo Shu gave her an angry look, and Luo Shu put on sunglasses and continued to look at the sky. Ouch, Luo Shu Rear Admiral is angry. I didn't let you go to sleep yesterday, you can come in. That is your room. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the woman stroked her hair lightly, and then speaking with a smile. You and that BABY5 are in my room. I will go in and sleep. You said that you are a good princess. What are you doing here? Luo Shu was so angry when he heard this woman's words. Come, look at her uncomfortably and say. Yes, this woman is not someone else, it is Violet. Yesterday she came with the little humans. After Luo Shu solved the problem of eating for the little humans, Gan Chao sent 5 people from the little humans here. Luo Shu equipped both parties with phone bugs and phone image bugs so that they could contact at any time. I thought it would be a good idea, but who knows, this woman, Violet, actually followed. I have to admit, this woman is very powerful, she is very good at please. Of course, it is not Luo Shu that she pleases, but Hina and Ingrid. Ingrid soon started calling her sister, and Hina had a very good relationship with her, because she really had a lot of ways. She could teach Hina to dance, she could also teach her how to show her pretty, how let's deal with men, of course, this last point is the most important. Secondly, she has the ability to stare at fruits, which can help ships monitor the surroundings. And after all, she has been a colleague with Sugar and Baby 5 for a long time. For example, BABY5, she said casually, you must not leave me. BABY5 agreed with a happy face. Not only began to clean up the ship, but also helped to look at the sugar. The ghost knew what personality it was. Although when I watched One Piece before, I found that not only the protagonist, but also many supporting actors have IQ problems, but I didn't think about it. There is such a problem. In this way, it only took Violet one day to get into the circle of Luo Shu women, and also unhook Monet from the ceiling, even though Monet and Sugar have not unfastened Seastone's handcuffs, but the two also looked calm. Because even if they escape now, they don't know where to escape. Doflamingo has been killed by Luo Shu, and they are very confused now. It is precisely because of the added relationship between these people that Violet and the others occupy Luo Shu's room at night. Luo Shu's room is very big, even if everyone sleeps together, they can sleep. But the problem is that Luo Shu is not so shameless, so looking at that piece of yin-yang-yan, he can only go to the living room to deal with it for a night. He can be a ghost if he has a good attitude towards Violet. Baby 5, can you help me get the sunscreen? Seeing Luo Shu really didn't plan to get it for himself, Violet could only shout loudly. Do you need me? You need me to take sunscreen, here, Violet. When she heard her voice, the ghost knew where BABY5 came out suddenly, holding sunscreen in her hand. Seeing the strong look of BABY5, Luo Shu gave her a blank look and continued to look towards the sky. After another day's voyage, Luo Shu and the others returned to the G5 branch, but they did not rest here, because when Luo Shu returned, the naval headquarters call order came. Although I have only left for a few months, I feel as if I haven't returned for a long time. Seeing the majestic justice door slowly opening in front of him, Luo Shu took a deep breath and smiled to his side. Hina said. Speaking of it, they really haven't come back for a long time. Since the last time they were ordered to see the ship in the capital of Seven Waters, they have not come back. Originally, they were going back after watching the boat, but Luo Shu turned to Sabayati Archipelago, where he played Celestial Dragons, and then was transferred to New World by Sengoku. After all, I haven't returned for more than 3 months. I don't know if anyone cleans your room. Looking at Luo Shu grinningly, Hina said with some expectation. Every person above the general level, even if he is transferred from naval headquarters, his house will be reserved. After all, it is impossible for naval headquarters to call these people back for a meeting. Let them stay in a hotel. That is too much. So even if Luo Shu has been transferred to the G5 branch in name, his house is still reserved, but Hina's. It is estimated that it has been taken away. Before returning to naval headquarters, they just went to Infiltrating, where they handed over the men of the Doflamingo family who were still alive. The only thing a woman is redundant is BABY5, but watching her busy on the boat these days, and also taking care of the sugar, Luo Shu didn't take it seriously in the end. So only the male personnel were handed over, and then they returned to naval headquarters. When Luo Shu's boat slowly drove towards the pier, he found that there are a lot of boats on the pier today, quite a lot, especially the Vice Admiral boat. He could not recognize the Vice Admiral ships, which were nearly 20 large and small, which was really surprising. After the boat docked, Luo Shu directly gave his men a vacation, and asked Hina and Ingrid to take the others back to his villa first, while Luo Shu walked straight to the office building and went straight to the office. Sengoku's office. Report. Knocking on the open door lightly, Luo Shu directly opened his mouth and called to Sengoku, who was standing by the window. You are quite willing to come back, how about it? Going out this time has gained a lot. Looking at Luo Shu, Sengoku couldn't help turning around angrily and funny, and said to him. Oh, okay. Luo Shu naturally heard the meaning of Sengoku's words, so he touched his head a little embarrassingly. I'm calling you back this time. One is because you have uncovered Doflamingo's conspiracy, so Marine is going to promote you. This time you are the real Marine Senior. While speaking, Sengoku walked to the desk and held it. An appointment was thrown to Luo Shu. Luo Shu took it and took a look. Good fellow, Vice Admiral. Except for him, all the people on his ship have been promoted. Hina was promoted to Commodore, and everyone else was basically promoted to 1 level. Only Jody Joyce was promoted to 2 levels and reached Major. But the one who got the highest promotion was Ingrid. She was promoted directly from Sergeant to Lieutenant Colonel. In the battle with Diamante, Ingrid's performance was quite brilliant. And now she is also a swordsman after all. The swordsman does not say that she wants to be a Vice Admiral, but in Marine, it is not a problem for a swordsman to be a Rear Admiral or Commodore. Now he is promoted to a Lieutenant Colonel, and he is also in the scope of understanding. Yes, after accepting these appointments, Luo Shu happily responded. Secondly, this time I get you back, and there is one more thing, that is, the headquarters is about to open the Shichibukai meeting. Seeing Luo Shu accept the appointment, Sengoku continued to say to Luo Shu. Shichibukai meeting. After hearing Sengoku's words, Luo Shu understood at once, what are those Vice Admiral doing back? Now the friction between New World Kaido and the Red Hair is constantly escalating, so Akainu was transferred to the Shichibukai meeting. The shrine felt unsafe, so Kizaru was sent to Sabayati Archipelago, and Shinji was visiting the first half of the Grand Line. You know, Garp, you can't count on it. In addition to me and Crane, the meeting needs at least an Admiral-level combat power to sit down, so I specifically recruited you back. Looking at Luo Shu's face, Sengoku said solemnly. Although Luo Shu knows that he has Admiral-level combat effectiveness, now that Sengoku says so, he still feels a little refreshing in his heart. Shichibukai, in addition to Doflamingo who was killed by you, Crocodile was also exposed a few days ago using dancing fans to manipulate Alabasta. Although it was eventually stopped by Garp's grandson, the prestige of Marine was still caused. A certain blow. This Shichibukai meeting is mainly for the 2 candidates who joined Shichibukai after discussion, and secondly to make these people honest and give them some shock. Patting Luo Shu's shoulder, Sengoku introduced him to the topic of this Shichibukai meeting while walking. Luo Shu sighed after hearing Sengoku's words. To be honest, he has maintained his opposition to the establishment of Shichibukai. Marine cooperates with the pirates. Such a model is bound to seek the skin of the tiger. The technology tree in this world is very strange, but there is no doubt that the surveillance mode in this world is very poor. Think about the Earth, all flying in the sky are satellites, and the Wi-Fi in your home keeps the world at 0 distance from you. Even so, it is impossible to prevent the existence of dark forces that are not official and business ties. What's more, in this world, Shichibukai is the 7 officially recognized leaders of the Grey Society. The harm to civilians is really too great. Can't you abolish these guys? I feel that their existence is of no use, but it will end up with a big tail. Looking at Sengoku, Luo Shu made a serious opinion for the first time, and when he heard Luo Shu's words, Sengoku's eyes there was also a different light shining inside. To be honest, there is no one in Marine who wants to abolish the title of Shichibukai. Wait another 2 years, for the World Summit in 2 years. If I can hold it till that time, ha 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 ha. Sengoku said flatly, looking up at the outside. However, Luo Shu felt the anger contained in the plainness of his words. Luo Shu did not stay at Sengoku for too long. After a few conversations between the two, he left and then went to Garp 0.0, but unfortunately, Garp was not there. He seemed to have heard of his grandson. After going to see, he hurried to see his grandson. Luo Shu didn't say anything about this. The old man was actually quite pitiful. He didn't have any regrets when he didn't see Garp. After all, he will see him often in the future, and the most important thing is that his villa has more than one room. He can open the meet tonight. The Shichibukai meeting is not like a regular company meeting, you can hold it if you want to. This is a very long process. You need to send someone to notify Shichibukai, then prepare the venue and communicate all the work with the world government before it can be held. So Luo Shu came back quite early. After receiving his appointment from Sengoku, Luo Shu has basically spent the days at home, except that there are more girls and little human races running around in his home, which makes him more or less somehow not used to it. But fortunately, I gradually got used to it. There were more people in the house, and it was quite lively. Although Luo Shu doesn't like a noisy environment, he won't refuse with more popularity. Usually a few people quarrel with him and chat, which is actually not bad. In addition to rest these days, Hina and the others are also constantly exercising their combat effectiveness, and Luo Shu will occupy a training ground alone almost every day. Then Hina and Ingrid will play against Monet, who has lifted the bondage. Monet was not the one who was beaten and didn't fight back, so the three of them were actually growing rapidly. And in the application of armament hockey, the growth is quite obvious. At the same time, the speed of Monet's elementalization is also increasing by 21. Violet originally had no interest in increasing combat effectiveness. Recently Luo Shu also learned why she came to her side. Logically speaking, after King Liku re-entered the throne, she was the candidate for the next king, and she was now the only daughter of King Liku. But in her own eyes, she was stained. Whatever the reason, she stayed in the Doflamingo family for 8 years. This seemed to be her own stain to her. She was not worthy to be the next Liku king, so she quietly left and handed this option into Rebecca's hands. Originally, Rebecca didn't want to be the princess, because she wanted to live with her sinful father Cyrus. But now that Violet is gone, there is only Rebecca left. Regardless of whether the people accept it or not, Rebecca will become the next king, and his father Cyrus has returned to the palace. It is a happy ending. Without the goal of becoming stronger, Violet didn't have any ideas about becoming stronger. She felt that it would be nice to be an observer and an interrogator. And Luo Shu is only teaching her 6 styles recently. Although she doesn't pursue high combat effectiveness, at least she has to be able to protect herself. As for BABY5, she may be the quickest one among Doflamingo's 3 cadres. But Luo Shu still didn't teach her anything. Because of her own devil fruit power is quite powerful. Weapon fruit, she is far from developing. The old saying is good, how bold people are, how productive the land is. This fruit of BABY5, in a sense, has unlimited possibilities because she can become all the weapons in the imagination. However, her poor imagination limited the ability of this fruit. But Luo Shu, as an otaku, if he lacks anything, it is imagination. Of course, what he imagines is also related to other worlds. But this needs to be sorted out slowly, it's still early. In this way, with a group of people training, time passed day by day, and finally, today is the day for Shichibukai to hold a meeting. Early this morning, Luo Shu received an order from Sengoku to hold a Shichibukai meeting at 10 o'clock this morning. When Luo Shu came here, he found Shichibukai. Oh no, now it's Wuahai, so only 3 came. On the bright side, Bartholomew Bear, who is absolutely loyal to Marine, was defeated by the seaman Jinbei and Luo Shu who joined because of the Fishmen Island. Now the world's second largest swordsman, Hawkeye Dracul Mahawk, when Mahawk saw Luo Shu when he walked in, his eyes became sharper. In fact, for a Lone Ranger, he didn't care about Shichibukai at all. He came this time mainly to see Luo Shu. He is not ready to challenge Luo Shu, because after only 3 months, although his strength has increased, it has not improved much. Now challenging Luo Shu, he feels that he will still lose. Where is the Empress Boa Hancock and Moonlight Moria? When Luo Shu sat down, Sengoku nodded to him, and then asked the person next to him. The Empress Boa Hancock refused the call, and we can't contact Moonlight Maria. Hearing Sengoku's words, a person next to her immediately responded. Well, forget it, these marine choppy. Shichibukai can come 3 and it's already good. Sengoku said flatly, waving his hand casually. But unfortunately, the 3 people in front of Sengoku are still boring gourds. After hearing Sengoku's words, they just looked up and continued to lower their heads. Our meeting this time is mainly to nominate people who make up Shichibukai. Sengoku was already familiar with the attitude of these 3 people, so he didn't say much, but decided to enter the meeting directly. Since there is still room, I don't know if I can let you have the honor to listen to it. But at this moment, a voice suddenly came out. There are too many people in naval headquarters, so before that, although the people here were masters of observation hockey, no one noticed that a strange atmosphere had come in. Now that the sound rang, everyone looked towards one direction. As everyone looked over, a long and funny face appeared in front of them. No, it might be a little bit different from simply listening. Seeing everyone watching over, the man continued to say with a smile. Who are you and where did you come in? Hearing this man's words, the rear admiral sitting next to him couldn't help but clenched his fist. But unfortunately, that person seemed to ignore him, and continued to speak. I didn't expect to have the honor to meet so many big people today. If you don't mind, I have a request. Please be sure to let Shisha participate in this meeting. Quote. While talking, this guy did a tap dance. Looking at this guy's appearance, Luo Shu, who was sitting next to him, is starting to have black lines on his head again. This guy, is it ill? This time it is about the deprivation of the titles of Crocodile and Doflamingo a while ago, so I decided to take over the meeting of their successors. Looking at the people in front of them, this man tapped and said with a face. Chapter 91. Hey, but just as this person continued to tap dance there, suddenly a force came directly at him. This guy is also an ordinary person, and he suddenly waved his hand at this critical moment, bringing this invisible attack. Blocked it, although his figure retreated violently and stopped until he hit the wall, but he did block it. After landing, he looked at Luo Shu who was sitting there with horror, because he knew that Luo Shu was the one who hit this blow. If you want to talk, just say it. It's annoying to jump around and jump. Luo Shu said with an unhappy expression when he glanced at this guy. And hearing Luo Shu's words, this guy is actually even more unhappy, but he knows that this is the Marine headquarters. Now whether it is Luo Shu or the Buddha's Sengoku, the reason why he didn't do it on himself is because he is not yet a sea. Thieves, at least there is no reward yet. Suppressing his unhappiness, Lafitte took a deep breath and raised the corners of his mouth again. I'm here today, mainly to recommend someone to you. Looking at Luo Shu and Sengoku, this time he didn't jump around, and his tone was more serious. Let's talk. Sengoku looked at him plainly and asked, holding his arm. Blackbeard, Marshal Teach, this is the person I would recommend. Looking directly at Sengoku's gaze, Lafitte said with a serious face. The former Whitebeard 2nd Division member killed the 4th Division Captain Sachi because of dark fruit. Upon hearing the name of this person, the intelligence officer next to him immediately reported his situation and heard the words of the intelligence officer. Sengoku's eyes narrowed. He is not enough to shock the sea. Sengoku said solemnly, squinting. I know, but please don't worry about his strength. If you are really worried, then we might as well give Marine a generous gift. What do you think? Lafitte gently flicked his hat, and then the disgusting red lips curled up again. Great gift. Sengoku's eyes narrowed when he heard his words. And Luo Shu suddenly stopped next to him with his hand that had been tapping gently on the desktop. Because some memories suddenly flashed through his mind. He has read the original for too long, he only remembers some of Luffy's adventures. And the climax of the first half of Luffy's adventure is undoubtedly the time to top the war. And the cause of the war at the top was because of Ace. As for how Ace was caught. Thinking of this, Luo Shu's pupils were a bit bigger in an instant, and he seemed to know. Ace, the son of Gold Roger, the Pirate King, I don't know him, is it enough to change the position of Shichibukai? Looking at Sengoku, Lafitte laughed disgustingly again. But after his voice fell, the whole room was silent. What are you talking about? What's wrong with Ace? At this moment, Jinbei stood up and shouted loudly. Jinbei and Ace have a very good relationship. In addition, the Fishman Island is actually under the protection of Whitebeard. Jinbei now hears that someone is going to deal with Ace. How can he not get angry? It's nothing right now, but it is estimated that something will happen soon. Hearing Jinbei's words, Lafitte here said with a smirk. Sengoku, I absolutely don't allow you to do anything with Ace brother. Jinbei turned his head when he heard what this man said, and looked at Sengoku with an angry roar. We decide how to do it, or how to do it. It's not you who can be a scumbag. A faint glance at Jinbei, Sengoku's mind is already turning quickly. He and Whitebeard are old rivals. He knows the character of Whitebeard. Not to mention the evil blood of Ace, just by catching the line of Whitebeard, then this person is worthy of his planning, and now Sengoku has entered a state of planning. Luo Shu lowered his head and was also thinking. This matter was indeed something he knew. Could it be that the war on the top was coming so soon? To be honest, Luo Shu is still at a loss. Sengoku, hope you won't make a decision that you regret. Looking at Sengoku's serious look, Jinbei snorted and left the conference hall directly. No one stopped him, because everyone was thinking now, if Ace is really caught. Just as everyone was considering this matter, Lafitte also turned and left here. For Lafitte, what he wanted to preach had already been delivered. As for whether Blackbeard can catch Ace, he is very confident. Although Luo Shu knew he was gone, Luo Shu did not move. 1. Although this guy an idiot, he is not a pirate. He is the security officer of West Blue. Although he was kicked out, he did not being offered a reward. The second is that he is also thinking about Ace. If it was just Ace, then Luo Shu would not hesitate to start. Although he liked Ace very much before he crossed, that love has increased with age, and the experience in One Piece over the years has long since disappeared. If Luo Shu has any feelings for Ace, that's also because of Garp's relationship. After all, Luo Shu and Garp have a very good relationship, and he was brought in by Garp. It is not an exaggeration to say that Garp is his elder. This is also one of the areas that Luo Shu is more entangled with. Okay, the meeting is over. Just when Luo Shu was thinking about something, the Shichibukai meeting was over. In fact, Shichibukai chose more than 7 people. For example, the Whitebeard 2 who forced the law away, Edward Wilb is one of the candidates. His mother, but likes money very much, and Shichibukai is a pirate allowed by the government to pillage. Is there anything more enjoyable than this? So Shichibukai's supplementary advancement means picking out 2 supplementary advancements from these people, but now, because of a teach relationship, Sengoku is also going to check it out. For him, it doesn't matter whether Shichibukai is a C of 6 or 5, or a C of martial arts, but the identity of Ace is the most important thing. After hearing the end of the meeting, Luo Shu also stood up, thinking about the matter while walking outside the headquarters, but when he came to the entrance of the office, he suddenly saw a person who was not an acquaintance, but has some relationship with him. Luo Shu Vice Admiral. Seeing this big guy with Mo Shu's head walked over, Luo Shu's original pace stopped. Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral. Looking at the big man in a purple striped suit in front of him, Luo Shu had some doubts. Although the relationship between him and the Flying Squirrels was not good before, it was not bad either. After all, his relationship with Garp was very close. After Luo Shu entered Naval Headquarters, he was branded with Garp's name, and he was unwilling to change the gate and the like. However, since the incident of Colonel Mouse in East Blue, Luo Shu and his relationship seemed to have some problems. Should Colonel Mouse deserve to die? However, human feelings are sometimes above the law. For example, if one day Ingrid kills someone, the other party finds it. If the other party is an enemy, then Luo Shu will naturally kill the other party, but if the opponent is a civilian or something, what will Luo Shu do? He is not as great as Garp, he will do his best to protect Ingrid. In fact, this is also something in the bones of Chinese people. China has not ruled the world by law since ancient times. Since the Han Dynasty, China has governed the world with filial piety. The father is the concealment of the son, and the son is the concealment of the father. This is what Confucius said, not for fun. In ancient times, there was no righteousness to destroy relatives. If the father commits a crime and the son goes to report it, then the father must die and the son must die. The father died because of the crime, and the son died because of unfilial piety. This kind of governance lasted until the Manchu Qing dynasty, and it was only a little closer to a paragraph, but it is still the case in the folks. Luo Shu is such a traditional selfish person. Comparing heart to heart, Luo Shu thinks that he is such a person, so he thinks that Flying Squirrel is also such a person. He heard that because of the matter of Colonel Mouse, Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral has been suspended. The ban was just lifted last month, and now he is looking for himself, not for revenge. I don't know if Luo Shu Vice Admiral has time. Let's go have a drink, I invite you. But the imaginary yelling and rattling situation did not happen. The Flying Squirrel looked at Luo Shu, but showed a smile, and then took the initiative to respond. Luo Shu invited. Okay. Luo Shu was taken aback when he heard the Flying Squirrel, and then nodded. Luo Shu likes to go straight to each other, he doesn't like to circumspect. So if the Flying Squirrel has anything to deal with himself, just come directly. He is lazy to think about some conspiracy and tricks. Since the Flying Squirrel wants to talk about it alone, then just talk about it. As Luo Shu and Flying Squirrels left the naval headquarters building, they went to a small-looking tavern in the town. Although the bistro is not big, it is very clean. Don't get me wrong. It's not that Flying Squirrels don't like Luo Shu. If Flying Squirrels ask Luo Shu to eat in a big restaurant, it's actually a kind of alienation from a small place like J. It's a place to make friends. Obviously, Flying Squirrels are very familiar with this place. He just came in, and the boss enthusiastically cleaned out a place by the window for him. After ordering food, Luo Shu and Flying Squirrels just sat here, and neither of them arrived. What to say? After waiting for about 10 minutes, as the dishes began to be served, the two people could be regarded as having some interaction. Come on, taste this food, his food is still very good, said to Luo Shu enthusiastically, and the Flying Squirrel also picked up the chopsticks. Luo Shu tasted it and raised his eyebrows. The food here is really good, there is nothing too greasy, it tastes refreshing and delicious, and it is good to pair with wine. The dishes are served, and the wine will naturally be served soon. What they are drinking now is sake from the island country. The wine culture in this world is very good, basically all kinds of wine are available. Sake, beer, red wine, whiskey, brandy, rum, etc. As long as you want to spend money to buy it, you can buy any kind of wine, but such a place is undoubtedly a good place to drink sake. Sake is actually like low-grade white wine. Luo Shu didn't drink white wine in his previous life, because he was allergic to white wine, and a lot of small red envelopes would grow on his body after a sip, which was itchy and uncomfortable. But in this world, his problem is gone, and he can drink sake. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food, the original awkward atmosphere between the two slowly disappeared. I am very grateful to you for the mouse thing. The Flying Squirrel drank the wine in the glass with a sip, and when he heard what Luo Shu said, Luo Shu's hand also shook. He was thinking, what the Flying Squirrel said is the truth or the lie. Ha, don't doubt, I'm telling the truth, he's a marine scum, it's not a pity to die. If you didn't catch him, not only me, but also Marine's reputation would be damaged. I have to be right. I wore this cloak of justice. Seeing the doubt in Luo Shu's eyes, the Flying Squirrel couldn't help laughing loudly. Seeing him not acting like this, Luo Shu couldn't help but put a thumbs up in his heart. Although he couldn't make him righteously kill him, he admired these people who could argue clearly for the ideals in their hearts. The hearts of the people were all fleshy, and he did it, it was really amazing. By the way, you don't have a nickname yet, you have to think about one. The topic was stopped by the Flying Squirrel, and then he changed the topic and asked about another one. Nickname, Luo Shu asked curiously when he heard the Flying Squirrel. Yes, nicknames, pirates have their own nicknames, not to mention Marine. In fact, with your strength, you should have been nicknamed long ago, but Marshal Sengoku has not mentioned it. Think about it yourself. After taking a bite of the whitebait, the Flying Squirrel smiled and talked to Luo Shu. This thing, just do whatever you want. He waved his hand indifferently. Luo Shu really didn't have too many demands on the nickname, as long as it wasn't unpleasant. You can't do it anyway. The quality of the nickname is actually directly linked to your future. Looking at Luo Shu, the flying squirrel said seriously. What does this mean? Luo Shu asked hesitantly when he heard the flying squirrel. Haha, Marine's nickname is actually linked to your ambitions. Whatever you want to do, you have to choose what kind of nickname. If you want to be admiral, then you have to give your own nickname. Add an animal, it doesn't matter what animal it is. It's a question of attitude, and if you don't want to be admiral, just give it a plain name. While drinking sake, the flying squirrel introduced Luo Shu about his nickname, Matter. After hearing what the flying squirrel said, Luo Shu couldn't help blinking his eyes in surprise. Is there still such a statement? But if you recall carefully, it seems to be the case. The current 3 admiral, Kizaru, Akainu, and Chingzi, are monkeys, dogs, and pheasants, and the 2 admiral candidates Momoshiki and T-Dolphin, one is a rabbit and the other is a pig, all of which are related to animals. Then what is my name? Luo Shu thought about it while gently biting the head of his chopsticks. Do you want to be an admiral? Lying in the recliner on the 9th driving range, Violet watched Luo Shu gently write and draw on a notebook. If you look closer, you will find a lot of words on it. Those are the nicknames that the women around Luo Shu thought of him. They have all kinds of nicknames. Now Luo Shu is slowly eliminating them. But basically there are not many nicknames left, so Violet asked. Luo Shu has been in naval headquarters for almost half a month since eating that meal with flying squirrels, and his nickname has not been decided for half a month. I said the nickname Grape is not good. Hearing Violet's words, the sugar who was sitting next to him was shaking his little feet and asked suspiciously. This girl is really a very weird girl. She doesn't like eating. Maybe it is because of the childlike fruit. Speaking of which, children don't like eating too much. It's just that children have to eat because they want to grow up, but sugar does not grow up. She who doesn't like eating, only likes to eat fruits, and among all the fruits, her favorite is grapes. However, there are not many varieties of grapes in this world. Most of the grapes in this world are still in the stage of making red wine. Actually, there are not too many grapes eaten. In Luo Shu, the types of grapes eaten are. Luo Shu is now in the 4th level world, and Shinigami in the 5th level world. Although the Jingling Court and Soul Society are extremely powerful, there is a normal human life in this world. Luo Shu bought this world. Things are much cheaper. There are dozens of types of grapes alone. For example, Beauty Finger, Kyoho, August, Milk Grape, etc. These things have everything, and the price is particularly cheap, such as the legendary Ruby Roman Grape, which is known as the most expensive grape in the world. In 2011 in the island country, the auction is $6,400, and 6x7 is more than 40,000 soft sister coins, just a bunch of grapes of more than 40,000. But in the system, this bunch of grapes only needs 1 justice value, even if it is to add a cross-level price, that is, 2 justice value. What's more, the seeds that are eaten can be cultivated by the little humans, but I don't know if they are cultivated or not. Sugar can't eat such delicious grapes. Now this snack food, even if you chase her, she may not leave. Who would call grapes? Just stay honestly. Luo Shu said with an uncomfortable look at the sugar, and when he heard Luo Shu's words, the sugar also hummed Luo Shu and turned his face back, and Luo Shu began to consider what a Chi La Wei Yao Lai Te said. If he wants to be admiral, then his nickname can afford to bring animals. Luo Shu belongs to the dragon, so he wants to play some kind of blue dragon, golden dragon and so on. But because of celestial dragons, he can't call him a dragon. Calling a dragon is the same as rebellion. If he is not called a dragon, he doesn't want to call other animals. And if you become admiral, you will be very busy and troublesome. Because admiral, in a sense, even if it is the top level of the world government can directly command admiral, but it cannot directly command vice admiral. This is also the reason why Garp is unwilling to be promoted to admiral. It is troublesome and there are many things, and it is unnecessary to listen to the nonsense of the world palace. Otherwise, I'll be a vice admiral. Luo Shu sighed after rubbing his temples, and at this time Hina and Monet on the beach had also finished fighting. Looking at Monet who was tied up, Hina was also breathing heavily. In the past, Hina and Ingrid were both playing Monet, but now they have grown up to fight alone. Of course, Luo Shu doesn't know if Monet is serious, but the fight is quite lively. Facts have proved that staying at home all day long and working behind closed doors, this is only suitable for a systematic person like Luo Shu. Hina has played against Monet these days. Her growth rate is much faster than that of her solo practice. Recently, she has become a thorough master. The winding of Marine 6 styles and armament hockey. Even her hands can cover armament hockey. Although she has to wait to cover the armed color on her black prison, the progress is really not slow. Recently, she has been learning about observation hockey. Tina thinks the same way. It's good to be a vice admiral freely. Could it be that who will become an admiral in the future and dare not sell your face? While panting, Tina lifted the iron on Monet. He was jailed, and then the two of them walked back with their arms. Monet sat back to sugar, and Muna naturally fell into Luo Shu's arms. Seeing Hina's movements, I don't know why, Violet, BABY5, Ingrid and Monet all had a glimmer of envy in their eyes, but Monet's quickly disappeared, and Violet and BABY5 also turned their heads. Past. Ingrid can look at Hina enviously, but she really can't sit down. Your name is Luo Shu, and the shot is so ruthless. Otherwise, I will call you Shu Luo directly. It is nice and easy to remember. This Monet, who usually rarely speaks, suddenly spoke and said to Luo Shu. Hearing Monet's words, Luo Shu touched his chin. Shira, it seemed to be pretty good. He used to think about Shira when he was a kid and in the second year, but now it's not easy to mention it. It looks good. It looks pretty good. Then call Shira first. Shira Luo Shu, hee, that's okay. Luo Shu nodded seriously. This nickname, yes. Bulu Bulu Bulu. Just as Luo Shu was preparing to report this nickname, the phone worm in his kabuto suddenly rang. Luo Shu picked it up and saw that the phone worm had become Sengoku's. Looks like, I have to admit that the phone worm in this world is really amazing. Hey, Marshall. As Luo Shu answered the phone, he asked over there. Luo Shu, are you still at the headquarters now? Sengoku's voice also emerged from the phone worm when he heard Luo Shu's words. Yes, it's still in the headquarters. Luo Shu nodded, and Luo Shu also responded. It's fine if you're still at the headquarters. I have a task to give you. Come here soon. Seeing that Luo Shu is still at the headquarters, Sengoku didn't say much, and went straight to the topic. Yes. In response, Luo Shu hung up the phone, and then let the girls continue training here, and he rushed to the naval headquarters building. When he entered Sengoku's office, Sengoku handed over a document. Going to New World again. Luo Shu said with a smile after taking a look at the file. Kill Luo Shu. Kill him. With the screaming voice, it came from a pirate ship, and the pirate ship was also quickly approaching Luo Shu, but they hadn't waited for them to approach. Suddenly a huge slash shot out of Luo Shu's boat. Looking at the slash, the opponent was also dumbfounded. Everyone knew that Luo Shu was the world's #1 swordsman, and that slash was definitely not something they could take. Turn the rudder and avoid. Seeing that the slash was getting closer, the other party didn't even have the intention to fight back, so they could only cry out loudly. But unfortunately, if they face the enemy head-on, this slash is not difficult to break. Because this slash was not done by Luo Shu, but by Ingrid. Ingrid is tall and strong, with great strength, and her physical strength has also changed very well because of Luo Shu's exercises. Although her kendo level may have just passed 50, she is considered a newcomer to swordsmanship. But if a slash like this is used by ordinary humans, it may lose energy after 5 or 6 times, and it is not 100% to be slashed. But for Ingrid, she can do it if she wants to do it, because the power is too large, and the number of times she uses it, at least dozens of times. Her body is too strong. It is hard to imagine why there is such a terrifying power under her perfect face and her slender figure. Maybe ordinary people will be like this after they get jauntism. After all, just like Charlotte Linlin, her parents are ordinary people, and she was born to be able to kill the patriarch of the giant clan at the age of 5. This kind of upgraded human being is the strongest existence. The slash hit the pirate ship directly from the side. Although Ingrid's slash was not too strong, it also reached the state of slashing steel. Naturally, a small pirate ship could not be made of steel. It was of wooden structure. So when this slash disappeared, the ship had already been cut by 3/4. At this time, those people woke up and realized that this slash was not released by Luo Shu and it was already too late. The boat cracked into two parts, and these people had no chance. Luo Shu and the others would only circle around in the distance, wait until everyone was drowning half dead, and then go up and grab the bounty and throw them into the prison at the bottom. As for the others, let them fend for themselves. You are really hateful. This is the 11th time you have been attacked after entering the new world. As Luo Shu's boat was circling there, Violet was sitting in Luo with a smile. Shu's sighed, while drinking wine, said while basking in the sun. The young master is the largest intermediary in the underground world. Almost 70% of all underground businesses in the world are related to him. Those kings or rebels will lose if they lose, but those pirates will not easily let go and kill them. Lord's person. Hearing Violet's words, Monet, who was handcuffed by a sea stone at this time, put a grape of her sister's sugar into his mouth while whispering. Although Doflamingo is fool, he is indeed connected to too many underground forces. Now that you have broken the Doflamingo line, they will indeed be very troublesome. Hina also walked over and looked into the distance. The pirate ship, which had been completely silent, waved his hand, and Marine naturally put down the boat and went to the ship. Since Luo Shu took over this ship, months have passed unconsciously. Although not all the people on the boat have learned the 6 forms, there are still a lot of people who have learned a few of the 6 forms, and the physical fitness of other people is constantly improving. Among them, Rayleigh George, Dewey Peters, and Walsh David are even learning about hockey, but they are still far away. According to Luo Shu's estimation, if 90% of the people on the ship learn armament hockey, it will not be possible for a year or so. Of course, this is just learning. If you want to learn about coverage, you may have to wait more. After waiting here for a while, the Marines on the Luo Shu boat also picked up the 3 people with bounty money, handcuffed the seastone handcuffs, and threw them directly to the bottom. And Luo Shu, they also continued to move forward. But this time, they didn't walk for too long. An island appeared in front of them. At this time, a large number of marine ships docked at the dock of the island. The G5 in the rear is different, here is the one that really faces the 4 emperors. Luo Shu's purpose this time is here. Although Sengoku asked Luo Shu to come to New World, he did not clearly assign him a task. After he came here, he would be assigned by the highest officer Akainu stationed here. After being notified, the ship stopped at the port, leaving Ingrid to guard the ship. Luo Shu took Hina and got off the ship and went to the command center on the island. After all, Luo Shu is also a vice admiral now, so when Luo Shu came to the gate of the headquarters, no one stopped him. Instead, he took the initiative to open the gate and let him in. When Luo Shu walked into the room, he found that there were really a lot of people here. Admiral Akainu Sakazuki, Vice Admiral Iron Fist Garp who is eating senbei next to him, plus Shark Slayer Bastille and Chaser Maynard, count him, there are a total of 4 Vice Admiral. However, anyone with a discerning eye knows that apart from him and Garp, the other 2 are here to fight soy sauce. Although their combat effectiveness is good, they are still not on the table in this world. Uncle Garp. After entering the room, Luo Shu nodded to Akainu as a greeting, and then shouted at Garp with a smile. Wow, ha 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 ha, your kid has also been promoted to Vice Admiral, great, but your nickname is wrong, you are called Shira, are you not going to be an admiral? Look at the guy Bastille, he is all going to be an admiral. Those. Upon hearing Luo Shu's words, Garp over here burst out laughing, and at the same time, he also damaged the Bastille next to him by 0.6. After listening to Garp, Bastille opened his mouth, and he didn't say anything. Because the old saying goes well, a soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier, but his potential is only the life of Vice Admiral, and he doesn't want that. Being a Vice Admiral is nice and easy. He smiled and said to Garp, and after hearing Luo Shu's words, Garp also laughed. Indeed, being a Vice Admiral is easy. Well, Luo Shu Vice Admiral, welcome your arrival. Now that everyone is here, let's act according to the previous plan. Watching Luo Shu and Garp talk endlessly, then Akainu straightened himself, then said with a serious face. Akainu, Sakazuki, if among all the pirate fans, who wants to kill the most in the animation of One Piece, the first one must be Momonosuke and the second one is probably Akainu. Even Blackbeard is not his opponent. Because it was him who really caused the deaths of Whitebeard and Ace. But how strong this man's combat effectiveness is, in fact, most Hammy people don't know. If you look at the performance in the animation, he estimates that even after 2 years, he will become Marine Marshal. That's the 4 Emperors level. But if you follow the old thief Oda, oh no, from the words of Oda-sensei, Akainu is the strongest in this sea, because he has answered readers' questions on SBS. Akainu's strength is equal to Whitebeard plus Kizaru plus Chingzi. Then multiply by 10. Everyone knows that this is actually just a weird talk. Akainu can't have such a strong combat power, but if it is in the comics, Akainu's combat power is indeed much stronger than in the animation. In the top battle in the comics, he once stepped on the big sword cut out by Whitebeard's hands with 1 foot, and the battle with Whitebeard was evenly divided. In the later stage, Whitebeard was not pressed and rubbed on the ground like in the animation. When Whitebeard fell ill, he punched Whitebeard through the mouth of Hungary, then beat Whitebeard half of his head, and then killed Ace through Hungary, defeated Ivankov and Lightning, punched Jinbei and Luffy, one after the manpower carried the Whitebeard pirates and Crocodile, and let the Marines reunite with themselves. They were ready to kill the Whitebeard pirates directly. After Kirby came out to stop them, Shanks's face took off, and he gave up on the hunt. The manga is like this, but the animation is cut a lot in order to be more harmonious, and to highlight the protagonist of Luffy and to show the personal charm of Whitebeard. But even so, his combat effectiveness is absolutely the first among the current 3 admirals. In fact, he now has a 4 Emperors level combat effectiveness. Although it may be a bit worse against the real 4 Emperors, the gap is already very small. At least for now, he is much stronger than the deputy of 4 Emperors. If so, there are now a total of 3 4 Emperors level existences here. Akainu Sakazuki, Tekken Garp, and that is, Luo Shu. Although Luo Shu is only holding the title of the world's #1 swordsman, judging from his fighting style and strength, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is now at the rank of 4 Emperors. At present, the red hair is in contact with Whitebeard. Judging from the contact situation, it is likely to be for the 2nd Division captain of Whitebeard, Firefist Ace, and Kaido is also about to move recently. Between him and the red hair, there is bound to be a turn. Fighting. So now there are 3 main battlefields. Looking at Luo Shu's puzzled gaze, Akainu lowered his head and began to explain to Luo Shu again. Both he and Garp know that Luo Shu is really facing the 4 Emperors now, and it may not take any advantage. So the work they arranged for Luo Shu should be a little simpler. According to Akainu, there are currently 3 battlefields. One is the battlefield where Whitebeard and the red hair come into contact. This will be monitored by Akainu himself, because this time they calculated Whitebeard, and the other battlefield was monitored by Garp. In fact, the main reason is that if Kaido really strikes, it is estimated that Garp can withstand him now. Finally, Luo Shu's task is to go back to the G5 base and bring some people out to monitor Charlotte Linlin, in case she comes out to make trouble during the 3-way melee. Hearing Akainu's words, Luo Shu couldn't help but smile. It seemed that Naval Headquarters would really pick people, not only because he had an antagonism with Charlotte Linlin, but among the 4 Emperors, Charlotte Linlin was naturally the weakest, which is also considered to be the weakest. I picked a soft fungus by myself. But even if she is the weakest, I guess I will have some trouble in the match. It seems that I have to find a way to become stronger. Luo Shu muttered quietly while receiving the military order. After they rested here for a whole night that night, Luo Shu and the others went directly to the G5 base early the next morning. Although Luo Shu has no good feelings about the G5 base, he is nominally the person in charge here, but he really has no good feelings about these soldiers. And these soldiers didn't have a good impression on him. Sometimes people are like this. The first time I see you upset, I always see you upset, even if it's my chief, I see you upset. If these people will make false claims, then they won't be nestled in G-5. Returning to G5, Luo Shu ordered all 4 detachments, leaving 4 detachments to guard G5, and then he set off again, heading for the nations. The scientific name of IWC is the Kingdom of Toto Land, a country established by Charlotte Linlin. The dream is to let all the races in the world live together regardless of high or low. She did almost do it. There are all races in the world except for the giants, and Charlotte Linlin actually has a lot of affection for the giants. After all, When she was young, it can be said that she survived thanks to the existence of the giants, so recently she has been trying to repair the relationship with the giants. Although it was also to have a stronger fighting power, she really wanted to reconcile with the giants, but because of her daughter's escape from marriage, Lola escaped, so that her relationship with the giants is now worse. All these materials were given to Luo Shu by Garp's adjutant before he left. Luo Shu's duty is to monitor, not to destroy Charlotte Linlin. Everyone, including Garp, is afraid of the young man Luo Shu, who is so fierce that he rushed directly into the world. No one will be there. Can't save him. But does Luo Shu need someone else to save it? Although he has no plans to rush into the world, he is not prepared to be just an ordinary surveillance. If Charlotte Linlin dares to come out and provoke, then he will not be merciful, and this probability will reach 100. More than 90 outs. However, if it is talked about heads up, Luo Shu may be a little frustrated against Charlotte Linlin, but he can still fight, but if he faces the BIGMOM pirates alone, he will still be fictitious. I have to think of a way to make me stronger. With this thought, Luo Shu is constantly searching for stores these days, while sailing at sea, to see what can make him better. Strong, he doesn't consider devil fruit in One Piece world for the time being, because he likes Momo fruit very much, and he wants to save money to buy this. When he defeated Doflamingo, he harvested more than 200,000 justice points at one time and bought 2 fairy beans for 100,000. But these days, because of Doflamingo's downfall, more civilians have been redeemed, and more pirates have not. With weapons, his justice value has been continuously increasing, and now it has reached 300,000. But 300,000 justice value seems to be a lot, but there are too few things that can be bought. C-level ninjutsu 10,000. B-level blood ninjutsu limit. C-level ninjutsu is 100,000, 100,000, too expensive. A-level or blood. B-level 300,000, A-level 1. Don't know how horrible it will be after being added to level 99. Hey, you can buy a sealed state for 300,000 yuan. No, you have to multiply by 2, who's special? Lying on the deck, Luo Shu muttered quietly with his mouth, but because his muttering voice was too small and a little messy, the people around him didn't care too much. No one knows that Luo Shu is staring at the mall screen right now. Just like what he said just now, there are a lot of things that can be bought for 300,000, but in fact it is not too much. For example, the sealed state that he has always wanted, 300,000 can't be bought. Although the selling price is 300,000, if he wants it, he will have to spend 600,000. So he still has to pick from the 4-tier world. And in the 4-tier world, the top-notch goods are naturally unavailable for 300,000 yuan. Among other things, any S-ranked ninjutsu costs 1 million, which is really outrageous. Of course, the Momogo in Luo Shu's dream will cost 1 million. If he is allowed to choose, he will definitely choose Momogo. Now low-level ninjutsu doesn't make much sense to him, and he doesn't lack the skills of clearing soldiers now. Then look for those who can improve your combat effectiveness. After flipping through ninjutsu and devil fruit, after flipping through a lot of sundries, Luo Shu found that some of them were selling eyes. Indeed, they all sell eyes. Although it is scary to look at in the mall, he knows most of these eyes. Sharingan, eyes open, a pair, a go jade, the price is 30 kings. Sharingan, eyes open, a pair, 2 go jade, the price is 70 wong. Sharingan, eye open state, a pair, 3 hook jade, the price is 120 kings. Sharingan, with eyes open, a pair, Mangekyo, priced at 500 kings. Sharingan, eye open state, a pair, Eternal Mangekyo, priced at 1000 kings. Sharingan, eye open state, a pair, 9 go jade reincarnation Sharingan, the price is 3000 wong. Byakugan, eyes open, a pair, 150 kings. Tensegan, eyes open, a pair, 3000 kings. Rinnegan, eyes open, a pair, 2000 crown value. Straight to death, eyes open, a pair, 30 kings. Petrified eye open state, a pair, 30 kings. Illusion breaking, eye opening state, a pair, 30 kings. Secret stone eyes, eye open state, a pair, 35 kings value. Righteous eyes of humans and gods, with eyes open, a pair, 30 kings. Evil eyes I open state, a pair, 50 king value. Gios, I open state, a pair, 60 kings. Luo Shu looked at the messy eyes in front of him. To be honest, he didn't know much. Except for Sharingan and Byakugan, he was sure they belonged to Hokage. He was not too sure about the other eyes. However, if you exchange for Sharingan, Luo Shu may not be very accurate. One is that he doesn't know whether Sharingan counts as a skill. If the eyes are not counted but the pupils count, then he will suffer a miserable loss. Because the first 3 Guyu has no pupil technique. The second is that he remembered that if Sharingan had reached the level of Mangekyo, he needed the eyes of his own brother if he wanted to go up. Now he is not sure, if he is promoted to Mangekyo Sharingan, if he wants to be promoted to Eternal Mangekyo, what will he need? It's okay if you can only buy one-on-one Go Jade slowly rising, but what if you spend 10 million to buy the Eternal Mangekyo? Then he will lose out. System, can you tell me what to do if you want to upgrade Eternal Mangekyo? Looking at the system in front of him, Luo Shu muttered softly. Unfortunately, his system is still not intelligent, and Luo Shu is ignored. Now Luo Shu will give it a try or change it. Ah, it's so tangled. Luo Shu stood up, scratching his hair, but looking at the lists in front of him, he still had some meanings that he couldn't get his hands off. Luo Shu, there are all nations ahead, and I saw the boat, a boat that is singing. At this moment, Violet, who was beside him, suddenly opened his eyes and said to Luo Shu with a serious face. Music ship. Luo Shu nodded when he heard Violet's words. He knew about this ship. In fact, there are many music ships destroyed in his hands. This ship is Charlotte, one of the Pugos of Linlin pirates. Now that the ship of music has arrived, it means that we have entered the realm of all nations. Hiss, now is not the time to hesitate, or else it will be Sharingan. After gritting his teeth, Luo Shu thought for a moment. Even if it is troublesome to merge eyes in the future, the fighting power that he has promoted to Mangekyo's Sharingan is still quite terrifying. Now I have to be hard on Charlotte Linlin, and it would be nice to get a pair of Sharingan. But just as he was about to buy Sharingan, he suddenly saw one of the options below. When he saw this, Luo Shu couldn't help but froze. A long-lasting memory seems to slowly pop up. If this thing is the thing he knows, is it a bit too cheap? At this time, there was a banquet on the Cake Island of Todo Land. In fact, Charlotte Linlin was very good here. They held banquets every other day. Because Charlotte Linlin likes to eat very much, it is the happiest time to have a banquet. This is the case now. Everyone at the banquet is pushing cups and calling for a cup, and Charlotte Linlin is also crazy about eating sweets. But at this moment, a Hormats quickly ran in from the outside with a panic on his face, and seeing his appearance, everyone at the banquet stopped and looked at him. Report to Mom that the patrol boat outside found several marine boats. After the man knelt down, he said to Charlotte Linlin with a serious face. Isn't it just a few marine ships? What's so fuss about? After hearing this man's words, Charlotte Linlin continued to eat sweets, and then said plainly, marine watching them. This is a blatant thing. What's so surprising about this? But the ship at the bow should be Luo Shu's ship, who has just been promoted to Vice Admiral. Hearing what the ant said, Hormes continued to tremble. However, as his voice fell, there was a sound of smashing things from the entire banquet. Even Keita Curry, who is usually as stable as Mount Tai, accidentally smashed the cup in his hand. Because of the name, they are too familiar. If Luo Shu's current fame is related to whom, the most important ones are naturally Hawkeye and Kizaru, but if it is the first stepping stone, it is them. Where is that fool now? After hearing this Hotz's words, Charlotte Ling also opened her mouth and shouted angrily. Luo Shu has beaten a sweet star in a row, but it can be said that Charlotte Linlin is completely ignored. Now he dares to block the door. Ah, Luo Shu's fleet is indeed far from the world than it was scheduled. Is closer. Looking at the angry look of Charlotte Linlin, Conqueror's hockey was already overflowing around at this time. Almost everyone took a few steps back unconsciously, especially the weaker ones. Just kidding, they couldn't stop the madness. Charlotte Linlin. Mom, leave it to us. Seeing Charlotte Linlin's appearance, he stepped forward into Keita Curry and said with a serious face. You are not his opponents. Marine dares to send him by himself, which means he has the power to compete with the 4 emperors. I want to see what Marine looked like when he received the news of his death. She creaked when she was bitten by Charlotte Linlin, but Katakuri's words made her calm down a little bit. With a wave of Charlotte Linlin's big hand, the BIGMOM pirates swarmed out. They were going to see what was so amazing about this man who defeated 3 generals in succession. At this time, on Luo Shu's side, he has closed the shopping mall system, and there were some fearful faces, but at this time it became relaxed. If you look closely, you will find that his eyes have changed a little bit differently from the previous ones. At this time, his original black eyes turned into light blue, which is amazing, just like wearing cosmetic contact lenses, but the light blue reveals a sense of danger. They are coming. At this moment, Violet, who had been standing next to Luo Shu, couldn't help but open his eyes and said with a serious face. Her staring fruit, to a certain extent, is more powerful than observation hockey. Standing here, she can monitor the movement of the entire nations. This is why Luo Shu let her get on the boat. Violet's combat effectiveness is actually not strong, and she has no desire to become stronger. Before, she wanted to become stronger to defeat Doflamingo. Now that Doflamingo is dead, she doesn't need to become stronger, but she alone this pupil technique is worth her being on the boat. This pupil technique can not only observe from a distance, but also see the heart of the other party. It is indeed the best choice for reconnaissance and trial. Prepare for battle, tell the fools of G5 to change their formations and use naval guns for long-range suppression. Hearing Violet's words, Luo Shu also picked up the phone worm and ordered the other warships. Although the people of G5 are not convinced by Luo Shu, they dare not disobey Luo Shu's orders. It immediately became a flying geese formation, and the artillery was aimed in the direction of the nations. Just as the lineup on Marine's side was set up, countless ships from IWC also appeared. Each of these ships was very strange. In fact, these boats were all transformed by Charlotte Linlin with the power of fruits. They are all homets. The appearance of each cadre boat is different and looks messy, but in fact, the momentum is really great. The largest ship in the middle is Charlotte Linlin's car, the Queen Mother Saint Brother, a second cargo ship that has been singing, "I am a ship, I am a ship." Looking at the incoming fleet, Luo Shu didn't think they were here for sightseeing. Fire. Since the other party has already come out, Luo Shu has nothing to entangle, so let's do it. Following Luo Shu's order, his warships fired at the incoming BIGMOM pirate group almost at the same time. Although the soldiers of the G5 were dissatisfied with Luo Shu, they were very good at fighting 4 emperors. Excited. These guys are indeed lacking in awe. They have no respect for their superiors, nor for the 4 emperors, so they just fired when they fired. Suddenly, many egg-tart class ships were hit by Marine's powerful artillery, and smoke billowed, and the most ruthless and accurate one was Luo Shu's ship. Because the artillery on Luo Shu's ship has been improved. The science and technology tree in this world is very strange, but different worlds cannot require that the science and technology here also follow the direction of the original Earth's science and technology development. In recent days, the people on Luo Shu's boat are training hard, and he doesn't need to train hard, so he uses some of the few justice points and exchanges some technology. Although there is no direct exchange, the exchange is technology. So he directed Pen Quick to modify a few guns on the ship. They changed the front loading to the back loading, and changed the detonation method of the artillery and the shape of the shell, because they did not report to naval headquarters, so now only the artillery on his ship is like this. However, after the change, it has indeed changed a lot. The shooting is farther and more accurate, and the reloading speed is faster, and the most important thing is that the pointed projectile head hits the opponent's ship, will first smash through a hole, and then enter the interior of the ship and explode, causing greater damage. Now that this battle is fought, everyone has found that Luo Shu and their guns are really easy to use. In the next 4 branches, the 4 warships only hit 6 Tart-class ships after a volley of 4 warships, and only sank 1, and Luo Shu hit 7 Tart-class ships only by his own ship. The ship sank 3 directly, and 4 more went on strike. The wooden structure of the ship is far from competing with Luo Shu's pointed shells. Seeing that he had just suffered a loss, Charlotte Linlin couldn't help but yelled. Following her command, a thundercloud quickly drifted past her, towards Luo Shu. Their ship was killed. The speed of this cloud is very fast, and as it walks, it accumulates power. Slowly, the clear sky near the world has also become pitch black at this time. The power of the lightning is constantly wandering among the clouds. Look, it's terrifying to get up. Zeus. Looking at this cloud, Luo Shu's eyes narrowed, knowing himself and his opponent, so that he can survive 100 battles. Luo Shu naturally also carefully read all the information about the BIGMOM pirate group before coming. For Zeus, he is still very good, clearly. Looking at the thundercloud Zeus that constantly flashed like a small plane among the clouds, Luo Shu also drew out the flying rain in his hand. I'm going to see when you are at level 99, what special abilities do you have? Touching his eyelids, Luo Shu said with excitement, and then slashed directly at the thundercloud in the sky. Hacked past. What is he doing? He is going to split the cloud. Charlotte Opella couldn't help but said amusedly as she watched Luo Shu's movements and her son on the Charlotte Linlin boat. Everyone knows that although the slash is sharp, it doesn't do much harm to these things. Does he really expect that the sword can split the cloud? Give me a break. In fact, it is not only him, but also the other people on the court. In addition to Luo Shu's people on the boat who believe in him, even the fools of G5 think Luo Shu is crazy. But is Luo Shu really crazy? Naturally not, because at this time, in his eyes, the cloud in the sky is full of white dots and lines. Seeing this, it is estimated that someone already knows that Luo Shu's ability to spend 300,000 justice value exchanges is the Demon Eye of Straight Death. This is a niche ability in a niche anime. Appeared in a total of 2 works, one is called Tsukiheim, and the other is called The Realm of the Sky. When mentioning these 2 works, there are probably not many people who know about them, except for the T-Ban Zishenzen. The main reason why Luo Shu can find this thing in the objects of the 4-level world is because these 2 works are divided according to a set of main works. The author of these 2 stories is a person named Nasu Mushroom, and the reason why his work can be ranked in the 4th world is because of his most important role, called Fate Stay Night. Also, it is the Holy Grail war that everyone is familiar with. With My King's Curry Stick and Golden Glitter, it is not an exaggeration that he ranks in the 4th world. Although niche, Luo Shu has also heard of this name. It is difficult to open the Eye of Death, but it is not difficult for Luo Shu. It is difficult to upgrade the Eye of Straight Death, but for Luo Shu, it is also very simple. The Demon Eye of Straight Death, IART, LV1, can see the deadline of the object and the ability of causality. If the opponent's strength is too much, it cannot be activated. Single quote. The Demon Eye of Straight Death, IART, LV99, can see the deadline and dead point of an object, the ability of causality, regardless of everything in the world, you can see the deadline and dead point. Power beyond life and death. Luo Shu doesn't need it. Although his system is not smart, its effect is quite good. Seeing the slash in the sky and swiftly heading towards the deadline he was aiming at, Luo Shu's mouth grinned unconsciously. What he wanted was such a result. With a soft sound of swipe, the clouds dispersed in the sky instantly. The huge thundercloud had no chance to show its powerful side of thunder and lightning attack. It was directly cut into pieces by Luo Shu's slash, and everyone was horrified. In his eyes, the thunderclouds that originally covered this sea area disappeared instantly. What's going on? How could it be, Mom's thundercloud? Watching this scene, the people of the BIGMOM pirate group were scared and stupid. They had never seen anyone who could break the thundercloud of Charlotte Linlin so easily, and Charlotte Linlin, who was standing on the bow of the ship, also saw it at this time. It's even crazier. Keita Curry, Charlotte Smokey, who was standing behind Charlotte Linlin, walked to Keita Curry's side, and said with some worry. He really got stronger again. Keita Curry also narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice. The current Luo Shu is obviously much stronger than when he was fighting with him. If he still had the confidence before that, with the power of so many people in the BIGMOM pirate group, if Luo Shu was left behind, then he would be confident now. It has disappeared without a trace. Keep on attacking. Seeing the thunderclouds in the sky disappear, Luo Shu also picked up the phone worm and ordered directly to the other 4 ships. When Leian came just now, the 4G5 ships were already shocked. In the entire sea area, only Luo Shu's ships were still firing. This was not what Luo Shu wanted to see. Yes, although they didn't like Luo Shu's eyes, they really admired Luo Shu's combat effectiveness. Luo Shu could cut through the big cloud. This has a great motivational effect on morale, so the 4 boats behind Luo Shu exploded with astonishing fighting power, began to quickly fill the artillery shells, and blasted towards the boats of the BIGMOM pirate group. Quote. Looking at the cannonballs flying over, and Zeus, who has temporarily been unable to accumulate thunderclouds in the sky, Charlotte Linlin's face was gloomy and terrifying, and her figure suddenly shook, and a powerful momentum was directed towards her. Coming from all around. Even Katakuri's Conqueror's Haki can cause physical damage to the surroundings, not to mention Charlotte Linlin's, and the powerful Conqueror's Haki immediately swept in. The shells that came over were almost immediately shattered by her Conqueror's Haki, and at the same time the Haki rushed towards the 5 warships where Luo Shu was. Conquerors. Luo Shu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the imposing waves that came and swept in. If there is anything that upsets him the most, it is that he doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. People, but he really didn't. To redeem this thing, you need 10 million justice value. This is the top combat style in the One Piece world. Although it is not like Rinnegan, Tensegan, and 9-Go Jade Sharingan, it can jump directly to the top combat power as soon as it is installed, but if it is fully developed, it may not be impossible to compete with these. The eyes are contending, but obviously the current Luo Shu doesn't have it, so even if he wants to play a Conqueror's collision with Charlotte Linlin, he has no chance. But fortunately, the death of the Demon Eye can not only cut a physical attack, but also Conquerors. Under Luo Shu's gaze, on the colorless volley Haki, there were also a few more lines and a few small dots. If Luo Shu really had no choice but to suppress Conquerors before that, it would be like Doflamingo back then, but now everything is different. Draw a knife and cut it. Looking at the Conquerors that was pressing over quickly, Luo Shu pulled out the Feiyu that had originally retracted again. Suddenly, the force struck directly on the Conqueror's Haki in front of him, and he heard something like glass. After the cracking click, with a blast in the air, Charlotte Linlin was surprised to find that her Conqueror's Haki shock was directly crushed by Luo Shu. This guy's swordsmanship has definitely reached another level. There is nothing in this world that he can't cut. The crushed Conquerors not only shocked Charlotte Linlin, but also shocked Katakuri, the world. The #1 swordsman really deserves its reputation. Take it to death. Watching Luo Shu actually shattered his own Conqueror's impact, Charlotte Linlin was really angry, and the second Buddha ascended to heaven. After a roar, the huge body actually jumped up forcibly. Zeus, who was temporarily unable to condense the thundercloud, immediately caught her, and rushed towards Luo Shu while carrying her. At this moment, Charlotte Linlin drew out a giant knife that was also made by top Hormats. A slash struck towards Luo Shu's direction. The Spear of Elbaf Prestige. Looking at this slash, 90% of the people took a breath, because this slash seemed to be surprisingly big. But when Luo Shu looked at this slash, he couldn't help but smile disdainfully. Fight with him. Are you crazy? Hawkeye dare not. Okay. What's more, now he still has the existence of the Demon Eye. Seeing that slash, Luo Shu suddenly waved Feiyu, and the same slash flew over, just above the death line of that slash. Only a slap was heard. The seemingly powerful giant slash was directly divided into 2 by Luo Shu's slash, and Luo Shu's slash continued towards Charlotte Linlin. Although Charlotte Linlin was shocked at this time, she did not panic. Suddenly, her other Homats, the Sun, and Prometheus were attached to the knife made by Napoleon in his hand, the whole knife, entangled in flames, slashed towards Luo Shu's slash. This trick is called Emperor Sword Broken Blade, and this trick is indeed very strong. Luo Shu's slash that could suppress Hawkeye was also crushed by her blow. The power of such an upgraded person is indeed terrifying. At this time, Ingrid, who was on the Luo Shu boat, was watching the battle in front of him without blinking. She knew that she had no right to intervene in such a battle. But her situation is actually similar to Charlotte Linlin. Some of Charlotte Linlin's fighting methods, she can learn a little bit. Luo Shu has no other ideas at this time, because Charlotte Linlin still puts a lot of pressure on him. Although he has a deadly eye, Luo Shu's chance of winning has increased linearly. But it is not easy to beat Charlotte Linlin. Moonwalk. Watching Charlotte Linlin smash her own slash, although the slash did not cause any harm to her, but it also stiffened her in place, and at this time Luo Shu also used it. Moonwalk stepped into the air and rushed directly towards Charlotte Linlin. Ha 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 ha, come on, let me make you a dessert. Looking at Luo Shu rushing over, Charlotte Linlin yelled. She is not afraid of close combat, she is not happy to fight close combat with Luo Shu. Shave. After taking a few steps with moonwalk, he probably came to a position about 800 meters away from Charlotte Linlin. Luo Shu also used the shave in an instant. I saw the figure flash, and in the next second Luo Shu appeared next to Charlotte Linlin, and the rein in his hand slashed towards Charlotte Linlin. However, Charlotte Linlin's knowledge, although not at full level, is not much worse. In terms of level, her perception may have reached level 90 or more. Under such circumstances, the two are almost the same in terms of hockey, and can only be said that Luo Shu has the advantage temporarily. The big knife in Charlotte Linlin's hand directly stood in front of Luo Shu at the last moment. The weapons in the hands of the two hit each other. Luo Shu's top-notch armed color once again overwhelmed Charlotte Linlin. Full-level armed color. If this is someone else, even if they react, they will have to smash them and die. However, Charlotte Linlin's strange power and knife forcefully held Luo Shu's slash. Ding! A crisp sound, centered on the two-person combat point, and suddenly a powerful momentum spread to the surroundings. This is the top-level battle in the world, even Katakuri has to use it. The hand came to block his eyes. In the end, this move Luo Shu did not make a contribution. Although he flew Charlotte Linlin again for a while, he was also smashed into the air. After turning around in the air and regaining his balance, Luo Shu stepped on the moonwalk while quickly forming a seal with one hand. Fire style, great fireball technique. Looking at Charlotte Linlin who was still backing, Luo Shu suddenly spit out a huge great fireball with a diameter of 20 meters. What? Why did he breathe fire? Did Luo Shu eat devil fruit? Mara fruit? No, Mara fruit, isn't it the second team captain Ace of Whitebeard? Looking at the huge fireball, not only the people of the BIGMOM Pirates group were stunned, even the people of the G5 branch were stunned, because Luo Shu hadn't demonstrated his ability before. It seems that the rumors are true. Simoji on the other side whispered. There are rumors that Luo Shu used a huge flame in Dressrosa, but the person who has actually seen this trick is not on his boat, he was already dead. Therefore, many people think that Luo Shu's flame may be a special method. No one believed that the flame was made by Luo Shu himself, but now they don't believe it. They just don't know if the flame is from Paramesha or Logia. Flame crit. Looking at the fireball hitting herself, Charlotte Linlin couldn't help yelling, and her left hand without a knife was suddenly covered with a large amount of Prometheus flames and slammed directly at the fireball. Boom, boom. There were two sounds in succession. The first sound was the collision of Flame Fist and Luo Shu's great fireball, and the second sound was the sound of both exploding at the same time. Huge air waves and heat filled the world almost instantly, and the seawater was evaporated by the hot force. The water vapor slowly floated up, and Charlotte Linlin was blown up by this blow. Flew upside down. Luo Shu has never been a person who would easily let go of his opponent. Watching Charlotte Linlin retreat sharply, he suddenly rushed over on moonwalk. Seeing Luo Shu rushing over, Charlotte Linlin can only throw out another move of Elbaf's gun Wio at this time, hoping to block Luo Shu, because she has not found her center of gravity at this time, but Luo can Shu be blocked with a slash. Looking at the Elbaf spear Wio, Luo Shu's mental power was concentrated. Above that slash, he not only saw the death line, but also saw a point. Looking at one of the points, Luo Shu's left hand suddenly clicked towards that point. In the sword light, Luo Shu and Elbaf's guns collided like this. Luo Shu Vice Admiral, Master Vice Admiral. Looking at the man who collided with the giant slash, the people in the G5 branch were also rarely worried about Luo Shu. Although they didn't look down on Luo Shu, this place is now a battlefield. They don't want to die, they want to live, and Luo Shu is the top priority. In fact, even on Luo Shu's boat, many people are worried. Even Hina, who knows that Luo Shu will never take risks, can't help but clenched his hands. If anyone doesn't worry about Luo Shu, it is Ingrid who trusts Luo Shu infinitely and can see the battlefield call. Violet in time. There are so many stupid things, and they actually use their body to smash into Mother's slash. Ha 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 ha, this guy, does he think he is Kaido? Even Kaido, don't dare to do this. Contrary to Marine's side, the BIGMOM pirate group's side is constantly shouting with excitement, because it seems to them that Luo Shu is dead. Hey! Just as the battlefield was extremely tumultuous, a crisp sound came, and the original giant Elbaf gun Weo was suddenly shattered at this moment. Then Luo Shu's figure, like a small black dot, rushed directly from Elbaf's gun Weo, and came to Charlotte Linlin almost instantly. How? Maybe. Looking at Luo Shu, who was unscathed, Charlotte Linlin's face was full of horror. Now it is too late for her to defend, so she can only protect her vitals. At this moment, Luo Shu is in the hands of Luo Shu. The rain of rain instantly covered the thick armament hockey, and his body was also glowing red at this time. The current Luo Shu is just like Luffy's second gear, but stronger than Luffy's second gear. Because Luo Shu now prescribes life return, the most important thing for life return is to recover from his injuries. It may be to attack his own hair or the like, but there is another point, which is that he can temporarily improve all his physical fitness. Although the improvement is not too much and it consumes a lot of money, Luo Shu doesn't use it often, but now playing 4 emperors, Luo Shu has no reservations. The strongest draw with a sword. When he was dealing with Charlotte Linlin, Luo Shu suddenly pulled out the rein from the hands of Luo Shu, and the huge force was directly slashed on Charlotte Linlin's body. The powerful force slapped Charlotte Linlin like a cannonball in the direction of the BIGMOM pirate group. Boom! Bang! 2 consecutive sounds. The first is the sound of Luo Shu flying her out, and the second is the sound of her hitting the boat. Mom! Looking at Charlotte Linlin, who was hit by Luo Shu like a ball, everyone from the BIGMOM pirate group was about to stare out, looking at Luo Shu with horror. Luo Shu also took a few steps under his feet to stabilize his figure in the air, but when he looked at the rein in his hand, his face showed a solemn expression. The strike just now can be said to be Luo Shu's strongest strike so far. The 99 level basic swordsmanship, the 99 level draw sword, the 99 level life return, the 99 level armament hockey. Although she wanted to cut Charlotte Linlin's white line, she finally got out of the way. But even so, it shouldn't be a problem to chop Charlotte Linlin, but the problem now is that there is no blood on his sword. Although Feiyu is a good knives, it is only a good knives. It is not the kind of knife that kills people without staining a lot of blood. Now that there is no bloodline on it, it means that it didn't even have defenses just now. Break. Go away. While Luo Shu was thinking, Charlotte Linlin on the boat in the distance pushed away the child in front of him, and walked to the bow of the boat with an angry expression, staring at Luo Shu viciously. Luo Shu also looked at her at this time. Sure enough, there was only a red mark on the lower abdomen where Luo Shu had cut. So, he actually didn't break Charlotte Linlin's defense. Although before that, he had also heard of Charlotte Linlin's strong physical defenses. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is impenetrable, but he couldn't think that her defense is so strong, and some of the strong ones are not scientific. Sure enough, none of the 4 emperors is a soft bun. Luo Shu whispered while looking at the knife in his hand. Now his strength is actually higher than Charlotte Linlin, but he can't break her defense. Then trouble. He wants to kill Charlotte Linlin not without a chance, but it takes time, it takes a long time. He needs to consume Charlotte Linlin until there is no physical strength left, and then hit the deadline or the dead spot, and hit her badly, and then had a chance to kill her. But it would be better if it were at sea, because her other children could not come to help. But if it is on land, the situation is completely different. If you are entangled by Charlotte Linlin, these people will attack Hina and the others. The current Hina and the others are not the opponents of Katakuri and the others. And if you get caught in their battle, you will also have some troubles. Fortunately, my mission this time is just to monitor them. Although there was some uncomfortable feeling in his heart, Luo Shu did not turn Hina and the others into a match with Katakuri and others, or did not find a way to break the Charlotte Linlin defense. Before, hitting him at sea was fearless, but if he went to land, there would be some trouble. Luo Shu was never a hesitant person, he was very passive when he was between men and women, but he was very decisive in fighting. Now that he wants to kill Charlotte Linlin will be very troublesome and it seems that the chance is not great, then he will just give up, step on moonwalk again. Luo Shu returned to his boat. Asshole, how did you escape? Watching Luo Shu go away, the people of the BIGMOM pirate group couldn't help but yell, but Charlotte Linlin slapped the yelling person into the water, and then directly turned his head and walked towards the cabin. Seeing that the ant's situation was not right, Katakuri immediately took over the command and directed all the ships back. When the ant returned to Schwankang, a mouthful of blood spurted out. Mom! Looking at the ant's appearance, at this moment Charlotte Smoggy leaned over and shouted at Charlotte Linlin with a worried look. It's okay, I didn't expect that kid to be so difficult, careless. Pushing away her support, Charlotte Linlin walked back to the sofa with a sullen face, sat there, panting, looking at her. Smokey and they naturally knew what to do. Immediately wiped the bloodline on the ground, and then went to find a few crew members. Their souls will become Charlotte Linlin's best recovery agent. Almost on the afternoon of the battle between Luo Shu and Charlotte Linlin, the great pirate forces and marine had already received detailed reports on the battle. For the pirates, this is definitely not a good thing. Marine has newly released a vice admiral with 4 emperors level. Although he and Charlotte Linlin did not share life and death, everyone saw that Luo Shu was fighting against Charlotte Linlin. From the first second of the game, Charlotte Linlin never took advantage. And Luo Shu's combat effectiveness was once again placed in front of these bigwigs. Now, even if no one believes that Luo Shu's combat power can top the 4 emperors, but at least the 4 emperors' rank has a firm foothold. It shouldn't be a problem to hit the deputy captain of those people. Thinking of this, all the powerful people couldn't help taking a breath of air. Isn't Marine going to give another garp? If this is the case, it would be the worst news for the pirates. Now the garp veteran is immortal, and the strength of the 3 admiral has also reached the 4 emperors level, plus Sengoku. Well, the Marine one has the fighting power of 4 emperors. If this is to fight against anyone of the 4 emperors level, it will be an overwhelming victory. But Marine would not do this, because if they really dared to attack a 4 emperors level, then the 4 emperors would also cling together. These pirates are not as fools as imagined under absolute interests. After all, if they don't hold a group, then they are dead. Marine has an overwhelming win rate against a 4 emperors class, but what if there are 2? What about 3? What if 4 emperors contend with Marine, and one steals naval headquarters? Then Marine is over. So too much persecution is impossible, but Luo Shu's combat effectiveness is indeed worth thinking about, and at this time in the stronghold on the front line, Garp is digging his nose while smiling. You know Luo Shu was brought into Marine by him. He is very happy now. Even Akainu didn't say anything about Luo Shu's disobedience. Instead, he was meditating. Luo Shu's nickname showed that he didn't want to be an admiral, but if he became a marshal in the future, how would he win and use it? This person is also a big problem. After all, it seems that Luo Shu is not the kind of person who is very dedicated. If he doesn't think of Akainu, he probably won't hang Akainu. It's really a headache. This guy actually resisted on the battlefield. Ha ha ha, ha, what do you guys say to deal with him? On the other side of naval headquarters, after receiving the news, Sengoku called Kizaru, Qingzi and Suru over side pointing to Luo Shu. He started talking. But everyone can see that he will punish Luo Shu to have a ghost. Okay, old ghost, you can see your little tongue. This time Luo Shu blocked Charlotte Linlin in the wrong way, but after all, he locked Charlotte Linlin in the world. I think this will be worth the effort. With a disdainful glance at Sengoku, Suru said flatly. Ah, I agree. After listening to Crane's words, Qingzi also leaned his head on the sofa and said in a low voice. He was originally from the Sengoku department and was a small attendant of Garp before. It can be said that among the 3 admirals, Qingzi the relationship with Luo Shu should be the best. Oh, my relationship with Luo Shu is so good, I won't say bad things about him. After all, he taught me the song, I have an apple, I have a pen. Kizaru also stood up at this time. While dancing wretchedly, he said. He taught you that dance. I think he is going to be punished. As soon as he heard Kizaru's words, Sengoku's forehead rose up, and he roared angrily. Since Luo Shu taught Kizaru this dance, Kizaru returned to naval headquarters, but he did not sing or dance less. I often saw him humming that I had an apple and I had a pen, and then he wandered around in the naval headquarters. For a while, Sengoku and the others closed their eyes with this song in their minds. You know, at that time, Kizaru can torture them horribly. Now I have found the culprit. Akion. At this time, Luo Shu, who was leaning on the plate armor, suddenly sneezed, then looked at it as if it was going to be cloudy, and picked up the recliner and walked into the living room. New World's days are like this. It's a sign of change, so it's just right to run first, and sitting on the sofa, Luo Shu is still thinking about what he just thought. If he wants to Charlotte Linlin, there are only two ways. Otherwise, he can make his attack stronger. This person has many ways. For example, he can buy a Zanpakuto, a whole pair of Rinnegan, learn a small universe, and have a super game bloodline. It's good to think, but the problem is, how can there be justice value, and learn a little bit if there is no justice value? He can't even save the 100 king value of Momogo now, so he wants other things. If you can't make yourself stronger, then you have to find a way to make others stronger. Because if Luo Shu had no worries, he would die Charlotte Linlin. But how easy is it to become stronger? Thinking of this, Luo Shu couldn't help scratching his head. In the world of One Piece, there are no such things as heaven, material and earth. Humans want to become stronger, otherwise they eat devil fruit and slowly develop them, or else they slowly cultivate physical skills and gradually become stronger. Even Luffy, the current son of destiny in this world, has to get stronger a little bit. The meal needs to be eaten in one bite, and the meat needs to be a caddy long. He wants his subordinates to become stronger in an instant. That is impossible. Unless he also used the system to exchange things for them. He asked the system whether the things he bought in the system could be used by others. The dialogue box that the system responds is like this: the ability is not good, but the item can. For example, if Luo Shu exchanged a ninjutsu and wanted to teach his subordinates, then they would never be able to learn it. However, if Luo Shu exchanged a Rinnegan, after they installed it, they could use it. Of course, I don't know what the body suffers. But Rinnegan, Luo Shu doesn't have Rinnegan yet. Crack. Just as Luo Shu was studying how to make it stronger, the sound of a cup placed in front of him sounded. Luo Shu put away the system maul and looked up, and found that the one serving himself was not what he had imagined. Hina or Violet, not even Baby5, but Monet, who has always hated him. In fact, Monet would hate him, and Luo Shu also knew very well that no one had to hate himself when he replaced it. What does this mean now? Don't get me wrong, it's just that I don't like this taste. Looking at Luo Shu's gaze, I don't know why. Luo Shu always feels calm about everything. He even made up his mind to seduce himself, and then thought Monet, who was very calm when he managed to escape, had some subtle blushes. Luo Shu frowned and didn't want to understand, but if he didn't want to understand, he didn't want to understand. He was not a deep trouble person. He picked up the juice in front of him, and Luo Shu drank it. Seeing Luo Shu started to drink the juice, Monet turned his head indifferently and walked away slowly. After drinking the juice, Luo Shu also took a shower, and then returned to his room. Because they have considered the reason why Violet always disturbed themselves. So Luo Shu deliberately divided his huge room into a few more when he was in naval headquarters. Of course, Hina and Ingrid slept in the master bedroom. In addition, there was also a 4-person bedroom, which was vacated. Violet slept in one room, Sugar and Monet slept in one room, Baby5 slept in one room, and when Luo Shu returned to the room to rest, they had already gone back to the room to sleep. And Luo Shu returned to the room with a yawn, and started the evening exercise with Ingrid and Hina. This thing really won't be bored. In a blink of an eye, it was the next day. Early the next morning, everyone on the Luo Shu boat started training. Because Luo Shu exists, there is no need to worry about 060 encountering an enemy attack. Luo Shu does not need training. After having breakfast in the morning, he went to the villain to check the growth of Shondo. Generally speaking, things like broad beans should germinate if they are germinated and buried in the soil within a week. If they have not been germinated, they should be buried directly in the water. As long as there is enough water, half a month it's time to sprout left and right. However, the growth cycle of these two fairy beans is obviously different from that of ordinary broad beans. The fairy beans carefully taken care of by the little human race have only grown to about 10 centimeters after more than a month, and it is still early to be able to bear fairy beans. It seems that this thing really takes a year to cultivate and complete. After chatting with the villain for a while, Luo Shu left the room. However, when he came out, he unexpectedly discovered that the captains of the other ships of the G5 base appeared in front of Luo Shu. The G5 base is like this: the base commander is the highest officer, vice admiral ranks. Other than that, there is no rear admiral in theory. There are a total of 8 detachments, and the captain of each detachment is either commodore or colonel. If there is rear admiral, it is the chief of staff or something. However, it is obvious that there are no officers such as the chief of staff and the commander of disciplinary violations in the G5. No one can direct these soldiers, so the naval headquarters is also lazy. The 4 teams that Luo Shu found were not particularly prominent in G-5. Among the 8 teams in G5, the one with the strongest combat effectiveness should be the one that split into Commodore, but Luo Shu was lazy to take care of it. So let them defend the base. Now that these 4 people came over, Luo Shu didn't quite understand. What's the matter? Luo Shu asked curiously, looking at the few people standing here with a little twisted face. After hearing Luo Shu's words, it seemed that these people were even more embarrassed. It's such a base commander. We also watched the battle yesterday. The base commander, your strength is really strong, and the quality of your crew seems to be very good. Early today, we saw the training on your ship. So I want to come over and ask, do we need to train? Looking at Luo Shu, at this moment, a man of 5 big and 3 rough came over and asked in a low voice. You can train if you want to train. As for safety, don't worry too much. I am here. Charlotte Linlin should not be able to attack. With a casual wave of hands, Luo Shu replied calmly. This is indeed not the case. A big event. Then, can you send us a few instructors? They rubbed their hands awkwardly, and the captains couldn't help but said in embarrassment. Instructor, you don't know how to do 6 forms in hockey? Luo Shu asked a little unexpectedly when he heard these people's words. After all, they are all chiefs of New World. No, hockey is a little overwhelming, right? Hockey certainly will, but it is our own exploration. We don't know how to teach people. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the 4 people drew out their weapons in a panic, and then the armed color covered the weapons in an instant. Superior. Their hockey cultivation is really not bad, and the armed color has entered the 2nd stage. Although the quantity and quality are not too strong, but hockey's cultivation alone may not be worse than Hina's. Of course, if to count Suohei's combat effectiveness, Hina beats all 4 of them one by one. Don't think that these 4 captains will meet hockey, which is a very magical thing. In fact, it is a very magical thing that the New World will not have hockey. In the original work, Fujitora smiled at Dressrosa. In order to prevent the birdcage from closing, many of his marines were covered with armament hockey to top the birdcage. Although Luo Shu had never read the original and didn't know this, he was also a person who has been in New World all year round. He knows how many marines here can hockeys. Basically, people above the school level have come into contact with some hockey, and they can be entangled in the same way. Some highly talented officers at the lieutenant level can also use hockey. Compared to armament hockey, seeing and hearing color is relatively rare in this sea. You also know our reputation. We are basically people who are not required by the major branches and branches. We are selected and sent here. We have not learned anything systematically, so you let us practice. We do not too good at practicing. With an awkward smile, the other team leader said to Luo Shu with a shy face. Seeing this man, Luo Shu smiled and shook his head. He actually understood what the 4 people meant. Although the G5 Marines were all soldiers, they could mix with Commodore and Colonel. Naturally, he will not be an idiot. They used to ignore Luo Shu, first because they didn't want to see Luo Shu, and second because Luo Shu killed Virgo. It seemed to them that Luo Shu might stay here for a while. But now Luo Shu's powerful strength has made them understand that even if Luo Shu doesn't stay in G5 in the future, then he can manage these guys. So now they come here to ask for instructor, which is also a sign of favor. And Luo Shu doesn't care about these. After all, G5 is now under his command, so it is understandable to become stronger. Waved to Walsh and Rayleigh George next to them, the 2 of them walked with the 4. As for how much they can learn, it's up to them. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.